It's been a while since I've seen someone use that. A one-time revival item, the Resurrection Cross. Although it possessed the powerful effect of resurrection, it wasn't allowed to be used in important matches such as National League games, promotion matches, or guild wars, due to its inability to be used. The penalties are quite significant. Furthermore, even if the Resurrection Cross was used and the user died again, their current rank would be fixed at the lowest regardless of their previous position. Penalties such as experience loss and GP depletion were also tripled. Unless you're confident about securing the first place, using it would only result in losses. Additionally, this item has a fatal flaw. Seeing streamer Golden Light's death after using the Resurrection Cross made it evident that the flaw was the reason for it. Judging by his surprised expressions, it seems that the flaw of the Resurrection Cross hadn't been revealed by 2020. With that thought, Seong Jihan looked around. In the nearby vicinity, there were only summoned monsters or small groups in the Colosseum. There was no sign of hostility from any player. Guys, why are they staying so far away? He hadn't realized that the players had fled to avoid conflict after they saw him fight streamer Golden Light. Seong Jihan looked at the distant players with regret. He needed to achieve 10 kills, and this situation made it difficult. I have to at least secure 10th kills while I'm at it. 10th kill. That was the value of a monster's life in the Colosseum. After scanning his surroundings once, Seong Jihan ran towards the location with the largest group of monsters. At that moment, an achievement window popped up in his vision. Defeat the Goblin champion. Goblins are the weakest but most numerous monsters in the Colosseum. The Goblin champion is their leader, aiming to win in the Colosseum by gathering more goblins. Suppress it before it gathers more goblins. Reward: 500 achievement points. A champion monster was a type of elite monster that sometimes appeared in games. Their stats were 3 to 5 times higher than regular monsters, and they were hard to deal with due to their powerful equipment and special skills. Players usually avoided champion monsters in such situations, but they were just bonus quests for Jihan. 500 achievement points. It's a bit low, but since I'm going that way anyway. With a sudden burst of speed, Seong Jihan charged towards the goblin horde. He wasn't using a charging skill like Golden Light, but his new technique shot him forward like a projectile. What is that? Throw rocks at him. A massive goblin champion, about 2 meters tall, hurriedly urged his underlings. Bang! Bang! However, the heads of the leading goblins all exploded at once. Like a bulldozer, Seong Jihan charged forward. Against the tiny goblin, there was no way they could stop his advance. Ward, slash. A massive cleaver slashed through the goblin's body as if cutting through tofu, and green blood splattered in all directions. The goblin champion's eyes widened. The 40 goblin subordinates he had gathered were quickly cut down and exploded in the blink of an eye, their corpses littering the ground. Gruar, the goblin champion, seemingly trying to overcome his fear, charged at Seong Jihan with a roar. Thwack! The iron mace hit his head squarely, and simultaneously, the cleaver sliced through his chest. Normal quest. Defeat the Goblin champion has been completed. You've earned 500 achievement points. With the quest completion message. You've crushed the heretic's head and carved out the heart in the correct order. You've learned the proper method. The relic enhances the user's divine power. Divine power increases by 1. Unexpectedly, he received a bonus as well. Smashing the head and carving out the heart, that was the order? Seong Jihan looked at the iron mace and cleaver with a bewildered expression. The 2 weapons he had bought at a low price on the BattleNet market. Otherworld's divine item. The Cult's cooking set, grade D. Cleaver and iron mace. This set item reveals its true power only when both are worn simultaneously. On a certain planet from another dimension, it's used to cook heretics in a predetermined manner. Although the item was of D-grade quality, the set, which required both the mace and cleaver, was hard to use effectively, so the relic's price had been exorbitant. He had brought it along, thinking he might gain divine power by using it during battles. During the process of defeating the Goblin champion, he had unexpectedly grasped a specific order. From now on, I have to subdue enemies in this order. Seong Jihan reviewed the explanation of the cult's cooking set. Before gaining divine power, it had been a D grade, but now it had fallen to E grade. Since divine power 1 had been absorbed by Seong Jihan, it seemed that the grade had dropped. Still, since it's E grade for now, I can gain 1 more divine power. Seong Ji-han surveyed his surroundings. Having achieved 10 kills and added divine power, he wondered where his next target would be. There seems to be a lot of players over there. He soon spotted a location where multiple players were engaged in combat. Let's go. Streamer Golden Light logged out of the game. Within the Battle.net connector, he sat with a vacant expression. I never thought I'd experience such a complete defeat in bronze. Golden Light's BattleTube channel was in chaos, with discussions already erupting about his defeat. Wasn't this guy supposed to be gold? He's so useless. That's why he kept messing with players in bronze. Tisk tisk. Streamer Golden Light left a brief comment, I apologize for not meeting your expectations, before turning off the broadcast. His next action was to search for Seong Ji-han on BattleTube. While it was possible to access BattleTube using a computer or smartphone, the experience felt more real within the Battle.net connector. There are 3,123 simultaneous viewers, it's more than I expected. Considering that he was a bronze player and it was his third game in the match, the number of simultaneous viewers was higher than anticipated. Perhaps the aftermath of the previous broadcast related to the Sword King was still lingering. Moreover, Seong Ji-han's channel had over 8,000 subscribers. Seong Ji-han is on his 7th kill. He killed the champion monster by smashing its head and tearing its chest open. He's doing the same thing against every player he meets. He's already at 8 kills. His kills are increasing in the blink of an eye. At this rate, he might really achieve 10 kills. Communication was blocked in Seong Ji-han's channel. Seong Ji-han, focusing on the game, couldn't read the chat, so the viewers were casually chatting among themselves. However, the chat messages in Seong Ji-han's channel were notably professional. His abilities are clearly beyond bronze level. According to scouting system assessments, he's showing strength and agility stats of around 35 and 38, respectively. These stats greatly surpass the stat limit of 25 in the Bronze League. What's even more surprising is that he seems to have room for more. He clearly hasn't exerted his full strength yet. I wonder what kind of gift he possesses. Without a doubt, he's the most promising player in this Gangnam League. There seem to be many scouts already. The way they were analyzing Ji-han and estimating his stats was a method that large guild-affiliated scouts used. Once his gift is revealed, he'll most likely receive recruitment offers from numerous guilds. He's related to the Sword King, so there's some risk, but his abilities are phenomenal. But the top 10 guilds are sensitive to public opinion, so they will hesitate a bit before making an offer. In truth, he's still just in bronze. If Seong Ji-han had showcased only his abilities without any connection to the Sword Kings, he would have likely received guild offers from the top 10 domestic corporations by now. However, he held a unique position as the Sword King's brother-in-law, and because he embodied the opposition of the nation's #1 fan club, the large corporate guilds that monitored public opinion couldn't rashly offer him a recruitment proposal. To think they'd hesitate to recruit him even with those abilities, it seems like public opinion is indeed complicated. Reading the chat messages, Golden Light thought this. That guy must have undoubtedly stolen something from the Sword Kings. Exactly. That tracksuit is probably an SSS grade item. That's a very plausible deduction. Yes. Maybe the Sword King got tired of his brother-in-law stealing from him, so he's acting. Truly, ignorant people. The members of the Sword King fan club were saying nonsense, but since their opinion had some weight, the guilds were hesitating. Thinking this, Golden Light continued reading the chat messages. Wow, when Seong Ji-han clashed with an opponent, Golden Light exclaimed in admiration, watching the scene unfold. How did he dodge that strike? Ah, such a clean hit. Even to someone like him who was once a Gold League player, Seong Ji-han's attacks were amazing. How could a bronze player fight so proficiently? Wow, he's achieved 9 kills. How did he smash their heads so easily? Is he going for 10 kills? He's doing it all by himself. And seeing the surprised reactions of regular viewers to Seong Ji-han's accomplishments. Ah. These kinds of reactions should be on my channel. Golden Light felt a sense of unease that his deep-sea exploration content might be challenged by Seong Ji-han. Thud. Yet Seong Ji-han shattered another player's head. 10 kills. He's got 10 kills. 10 kills in the survival map. He found himself participating in the chat without realizing it. Why is Golden Light here? He contributed 20% to the 10 kills. Ah, that's the guy who lost twice in a row. Yes. Oh no, my username, Streamer Golden Light, He shouldn't have chatted while using that ID. He regretted his actions for a brief moment, but it's the first time someone has achieved this record in Korea since Sword King Yoon Sejin. Yeah. But you died twice. Hee. My death will be the opening scene of player Seong Ji-han's saga. Crazy, didn't you say you were a reaper? Yes, I was a reaper, but Ji-han was my reaper. Yeah. I'm unsubscribing to you. He seemed to be excited as he typed. Asterisk. You've achieved 10 kills in the survival map, Colosseum. You've cleared the hidden quest achievement, achieved 10 kills in the Colosseum. You've been rewarded with 5,000 achievement points. 5,000, quite good. In the Colosseum map where only 50 out of 100 players would survive until the end of the battle, taking down 10 opponents by oneself was truly a daunting task. Honestly, unless one possessed extraordinary power like Seong Ji-han, this achievement was nearly impossible. The 5,000 achievement points might seem small in a way. Still, gaining 5,600 achievement points and obtaining a divine power value of 2 in a single game. Seong Ji-han looked at the equipment in his hand. The Colt's cooking set, its grade had changed from E to F, and the item's name had been changed to former item from another world, F grade. With only one divine power left after absorbing the remaining 4 kills, he had obtained everything he could from today's game. When I exit the game, I should check out the unique stats. As Seong Ji-han contemplated this, waiting for the game to end. You have cleared the hidden quest. Epic quest has been unlocked. Epic quest? Seong Ji-han stared at the new quest window that had just appeared before him. Epic quest. Find and provoke the Shadow Queen located in the spectator seats of the Colosseum map. Reward. 50,000 achievement points, the constellation Shadow Queen's interest. The constellation's interest. Seong Ji-han's eyes widened significantly. A constellation. They're the absolute beings representing each star, reigning as divine entities on the BattleNet. There was not much known about the constellations even in my past life. After the tutorial period of BattleNet ended, a constellation section was added to the status window of all players. However, very few players actually received sponsorship from the constellation. Only those with exceptional abilities among the Diamond League and above players were chosen by the constellation. The reason Earthlings didn't receive sponsorship was simple. After the BattleNet tutorial ended in 2020, the Space League began, where Earthlings performed poorly. They must have thought it was a star destined to be demoted and then doomed. And even if the constellation did offer sponsorship, it wasn't of good quality. The penalties were immense, matching the abilities they granted, causing many to suffer greatly from the constellation's interference. The sponsorship from the constellation was truly a double-edged sword. But Seong Ji-han was prepared to handle such a sword. To him, the more sponsorship from the constellations, the better. I already have a plan for one seat in the constellation, but I'll definitely sell the option to expand the constellation slot in the achievement store. Considering the items seen so far in the achievement store, the possibility was very high. Then, the reward known as the Shadow Queen of the constellation, it was worth aiming for. However, the conditions are strict. The number of spectators in the Colosseum was the issue. The Colosseum's size made it relatively easy to identify the scattered audience, but the number seemed to exceed 1,000 at least. Seong Ji-han recalled the elves who had sat in the spectator seats. White elves were being held captive by the dark elves. Superficially, the power hierarchy was clear. However, the fact that the constellation's name was Shadow Queen bothered him. Contrary to appearances, there might be a queen among the dark elves. And to provoke the elves in the audience, there was a powerful barrier at the border of the arena, and breaking through it and provoking the elves in the audience was impossible with the strength of a bronze. This constraint applied even to Seong Ji-han, who possessed martial power. As Seong Ji-han thought deeply while returning home after logging out. Uncle, congratulations on setting a new record. Niece Yoon Seo came out of her room and congratulated Seong Ji-han. New record? 10 kills in a survival match, it's really amazing. Yoon Seo was bouncing around as if it were her own achievement. Oh, that. You were watching? Of course. There were a lot of people. I thought there wouldn't be anyone else, so I wanted to be first, but there were already about 1,000 people. Really? That's more than I expected. Yeah. And later on, the number of viewers kept increasing, and it went over 3,000. 3,000 viewers for a bronze-level broadcast. Considering the average viewership for a gold-level broadcast was around 2,000, his achievement was impressive enough to boast about. However, Seong Ji-han's reaction remained calm. Compared to his records from his past life, this number was just the beginning. But people wanted to sponsor GP. They were disappointed that Uncle completely blocked sponsorships. Is that so? Perhaps it was because he had changed the broadcast settings out of habit, preventing sponsor messages. In his previous life, he had plenty of GP, so he had turned off the annoying sponsor messages that kept popping up during battles. But things are different now. Currently, GP was crucial, and even more so in the lower leagues, where a few messages wouldn't affect the fight much. I'll have to change the settings again. Yeah, but since it might interfere with Uncle's fights, let's hide sponsor messages below 10,000 GP from the player's view. Oh, is 10,000 too cheap? If it were in Korean won, wouldn't 10 million be considered cheap? Or not? Is it expensive? Yoon Se repeated her thoughts while scratching her head, seemingly carefree due to her life as the daughter of the Sword King. 10,000 GP, right. Well, it's bronze, so there's no choice. Seong Ji-han had a decent grasp of the value of money, but he held some unconventional beliefs. I'm glad that the messages won't flood the screen too much. True. How about 50,000? No, since it's just the beginning. Let's be humble. Seong Ji-han and Yoon Se were worrying unnecessarily. While observing Seong Ji-han changing the settings for his BattleNet channel, Yoon Se suddenly realized something and asked with a surprised expression. But uncle, what were you thinking about earlier? You had a troubled look on your face. Oh, that? There's a quest to find the Shadow Queen among the elves in the spectator seats. A quest? There's something like that on BattleNet? Yeah, it appeared after achieving 10 kills. Seong Ji-han replied naturally to his niece's inquiry, who accepted it with understanding due to the many unrevealed aspects of BattleNet. The Shadow Queen. There are about 1,000 elves in the spectator seats, and I was thinking about how to find her. Quests like that exists, huh? Considering that it's bronze, it seems that way. Nodding at his niece's musings, Seong Ji-han continued to adjust his BattleNet channel settings. Uncle, do you want me to help? I don't really have anything else to do. What about school? The homeroom teacher contacted me. Because of this situation, they said I can take a week off from school. Perhaps due to the issue of Sword King Yoon Sejin becoming a Japanese citizen, the homeroom teacher seemed to be considerate. Sure. It would be nice if you helped, Seiya. It wouldn't be good to spend time at home without anything to do, so having something to focus on would be good. Seong Ji-han accepted his niece's offer without expecting too much. All right, uncle. I'll definitely find the Shadow Queen. Promise me one thing later. Promise? What is it? Tell me now, and I'll do it right away. Nah, if you agree right away, there won't be a sense of accomplishment. Promise me once I find her. Seong Ji-han was puzzled about what she was going to ask for, but he calmly nodded. Got it. Once you find the Shadow Queen, I'll agree to anything. Great. I need to find her right away. With that, Yoon Se went back into her room. She's so energetic. Seeing her like that, Seong Ji-han chuckled and entered his own room. He decided to temporarily put aside the epic quest that wouldn't be easily solved. There was something else he needed to do before that. As for the unique stat, Baron's unique stat, who had been ranked first in the world. He needed to obtain the Force. The next day, you have absorbed divine power from an otherworldly relic. Your divine power has reached 10. From now on, you can only absorb divine power from relics of C grade or higher. Seong Ji-han rose from the pile of relics. Although the message stated that he could only absorb divine power from C grade or higher relics, it didn't matter. He had finally achieved true divine power 10, excluding the title effect. He headed to the training room located on the outskirts of the penthouse. Perhaps because Sword King Yoon Sejin used this place for experimenting with his sword techniques, the training room was constructed entirely from a special metal that absorbed shock. Fire. Ji-han had never used the basic magic, fire, after picking the mage class, but he used it in real life first instead of in the game. It was a precarious fire that seemed like it'd flicker out at any moment. As expected, I'm not suited to be a mage. His magic power was 5, and you could only use half of your abilities in real life, so the output of the basic magic was less than that of a lighter. Let's add divine power to this. Seong Ji-han recalled Baron's words. A thought suddenly crossed my mind while I was in bronze killing zombies. What would happen if I mixed divine power with magic power? That was only possible because it was you. You could obtain divine power by picking the support class, but magic power was something you could use if you were a mage. The idea of infusing divine power into magic was something anyone could have thought of, but only Baron, who had the 2 status windows gift, could bring it into reality. Yeah. My great gift, 2 status windows, immediately made this idea a reality. I dominated the defense map every time. And I distributed my stats evenly between divine power and magic power, 1 point each. Baron's bleary eyes, due to his drunken state, were as bright as ever at that moment. And the moment divine power reached 10, oh my god, a unique stat came to me. Yes, Baron's trademark, force. Force. A new unique stat that emerged as magic power and divine power merged. It was an absolute power that ruled over space. Baron's force, even as Seong Jihan thought about it now, was an immense power. If only Baron had better control, he would have shown a truly top-ranked performance. However, he was terrible at that. In emergency situations, he easily panicked and often failed to control his power, causing harm to his allies. Force, I'll obtain it and show you, Baron. Force held numerous possibilities. Seong Jihan planned to use it as a double-edged sword alongside his strength. It won't be easy, however, force didn't come easily to Seong Jihan. Following Baron's advice, he had increased divine power to 10 and incorporated it into magic, but it didn't blend well. It's not mixing well for now. While he was good at using divine power, his magic skills were lacking. When he tried to incorporate divine power, fire disappeared in a reflex action. Even if he managed to succeed somehow, his magic couldn't maintain its form for long and the flame extinguished. Maybe I need to raise my magic power. His magic power was 5. And it seemed like it wasn't properly manifesting since it was the lowest value possible. He could increase it since his level had increased by 2 thanks to the game the day before. Let's focus on what I can achieve first. Directly allocating points to force, his future unique stat, was uncertain, but spending the remaining points on magic power felt wasteful. I'll take a break from the game today. Seong Jihan resolved himself and began practicing again. Sigh. From morning until night. Seong Jihan continued attempting the fusion of divine power and magic, but there were no distinct results. Still, there were unexpected outcomes. His magic power stat was so low that his heart's mana quickly depleted, making practice impossible. Should I use chi? Waiting for his magic power to recover, Seong Jihan thought about drawing chi from the lower dantian, the source of inner energy. Although it wasn't a method suitable for bronze level, thanks to his experience, Seong Jihan attempted to manipulate chi from the lower dantian and convert it into mana within his heart. Despite the loss of chi, in the end, using magic was what mattered now. Replenishing his mana with chi, Seong Jihan mechanically used magic again. Fire. Then, he needed to mix in divine power without dispersing it. As divine power merged in, the flame flickered once again, possibly due to insufficient mana. Let's infuse chi as a last resort. His chi was almost depleted by now. If he failed this time, Seong Jihan decided to explore other methods and drew the chi of the lower dantian. Thus, the chi from the lower dantian, mana from the heart, and divine power from the head converged perfectly within the fire. At that moment, you've been successful in the temporary integration of the 3 dantians chi. Divine power dwelling in the upper dantian, magic power in the middle dantian, and inner energy in the lower dantian have different natures of energy. However, they hold the potential to be united as one. A system message appeared unexpectedly, different from the originally sought-after force. Do you wish to attempt integration of the 3 dantians? Warning. Attempting this integration with your current level poses a significant danger. It could harm your life. During the tutorial period in BattleNet, there had never been a warning message about life-threatening risks. Seong Jihan saw the message and smiled. If it was dangerous enough for a warning message to appear, the reward is going to be huge, he spoke with a voice full of confidence. I will attempt the 3 dantian integration. 2 days later, in the training room. Failed the 3 dantian integration. The attempt to integrate 3 dantian integration failed. I lack both, the power and experience. The integration of the 3 dantian was not achieved through willpower alone. Even though I have martial power, it is still insufficient. The experience from the previous life was abundant only in the bottom dantian, the source of power, but it was lacking for the middle and top dantians. But, Seong Jihan had a bright expression despite the failure. It was because he had gained something through this. Divine power and magic power have been integrated and replaced by the unique stat, force. Achievement unlocked. Acquisition of unique stat. You've earned 10,000 achievement points. He had acquired his initial goal, the unique stat, force. The connection link of the three dantians is maintained faintly. The stats, martial power, and force, interact, sharing stats points. The relatively low value of force stat had risen to match martial power. Name. Seong Jihan level, 10 affiliation, Bronze League, Gangnam 1 area. Martial power, 12 force, 12 class, support class, mage. Gift. Wanderer's Insight, rank F, title, Tutorial Conqueror, bronze. Achievement points. 51,200 remaining stats points. 2. I should allocate some points. Seong Jihan cautiously increased martial power by 2, and as his martial power changed to 14, force also rose to 14 accordingly. He clenched his fist involuntarily. This is as if I gained the effects of Baron's Gift, 2 status windows. He could solve most things through the achievement shop, but obtaining 2 stat points at once was out of the question. With the connection link of the 3 dantians maintained in martial power and force linked, he was now able to receive 2 remaining points just like that. If he used 1 stat point, 2 stats would increase. This is a very good result. Of course, the best result would have been the successful integration of the 3 dantians. But based on his experience of attempting integration over the past 2 days, Seong Jihan knew that was an impossible task at the moment. My proficiency in the top and middle dantians is too low. I need to increase the understanding of both dantians while using force. Above all, he needed to increase his stats. They should be 100 at least. Both strength and force needed to be at 100 for the attempt at 3 dantian integration to be possible. I have a goal now. With a smile on his lips, Seong Jihan finished his 3 days of secluded training and left the training room. Uncle, are you done with training? Are you feeling okay? Yoon Seiya, who had been waiting outside the training room, rushed over. Since he hadn't come out for 3 days, she was wondering if something was wrong and was debating whether to go in or not. Just as she was thinking that, Seong Jihan came out. As you can see, I'm doing great. Looks like it. You seem to be in good condition. I achieved something. Aren't you feeling sleepy or anything? Nah, I'm fine. Why? Yoon Seiya, who was observing Seong Jihan's complexion, spoke cautiously. Well, you know that manager Park Yoon-sik who visited our house before, right? He had asked for the donation of the Sword Palace and relayed the government's stance, asking to stay in the penthouse a bit longer. After requesting an auction for the items left by the Sword King, he had sent them back. Why? Did he mention anything about the auction? Yes. He said the higher-ups had accepted and asked if we could host the auction tomorrow, and I said yes. Tomorrow? That's tight on time. Ah, he came the day before yesterday. From that perspective, it's 3 days away. I see. You did well, and I looked through the items a bit. Seong Jihan skimmed through the list of items to be auctioned and nodded his head. The items Yoon Seiya had chosen weren't the Sword King's personal belongings. They were storage devices containing his BattleNet connector and data, as well as analysis data of both himself and opponents, essentially, all data related to BattleNet play. Putting items like the Sword King's personal belongings in an auction like this could have a negative effect. The reason for hosting the auction was to get as much money as possible from the Sword King, who'd left for Japan. It wasn't to sell useless things to fans who couldn't let go of him. She must have handled everything alone to avoid disturbing my training. With this much, there was no need to add more items to the auction. You've chosen the items well. You'd have received backlash if you put up something like your father's personal belongings. Uncle, there's no way I'd auction off such things. Even as his daughter, I feel a bit weird when I see my dad's stuff. Sia made an uncomfortable expression, then quickly changed it. It seemed like she didn't want to reveal the emotions she was feeling from looking at the things her father had left behind. Anyway, Uncle, I found a good battle tube channel. Her voice sounded brighter than before. Yoon Seiya's expression shifted from gloomy to bright as she spoke, her voice now sounding even more cheerful than before. Yeah? What is it? And Seong Jihan, pretending not to notice her change in demeanor, responded naturally. Remember when you mentioned the request to find the Shadow Queen before? I do. Not having much to do by himself, he hadn't placed high expectations on that task and had left it to her. Could it be, you found some leads? Uncle, you know there are all sorts of people in the world, right? Yoon Seiya gestured for him to follow her. She led him to the home theater room located on one side of the penthouse. And on the wall of the dimly lit room was a screen displaying something. This is, Seong Jihan's eyes widened. Inside the screen, the elves in the Colosseum's stands were greatly magnified. Among the battle tubers, there are content creators from different races. Different races, content creators. Yeah. Mainly archers with scoping type gifts. Among these people, there are those who specialize in recording content of their own race. Scoping type gifts allowed a broader field of view and were not very useful at lower levels but became quite valuable in higher leagues. To use such a good ability to record first-person videos, Seong Jihan found it absurd. Nevertheless, the battle tubers were looking at each elf one by one, showering them with admiration. Oh wow, this race is indeed the best. Flawless skin, ahem, elf, please, could you grace us with your presence just once? In response to his rough breathing, Yoon Seiya frowned and muted the video. No need to hear the sound, right? It's creepy, right? There are roughly 1,000 elves. Dark elves are similar in number, maybe a bit more. Some dark elves actually have sponsors from 2 dark elf fans and some watch the games alone without sponsors, I heard. Was the dark elf leading 2 dark elves the Shadow Queen? Or was it the lone dark elf? Both possibilities were plausible. Uncle, I'm also searching for foreign videos, so I'll edit and show you later. You know how to edit videos too? I didn't know Seiya had this kind of talent. Well, I've done a bit of fangirling in the past. As Yoon Seiya finished her sentence, she turned off the home theater and stood up. Anyway, I'll show you the clips I've carefully selected earlier. Sure. Thanks. Got it. Since you've trained for 3 days, I'm telling you not to play games and rest today. Haha, okay. With those words, Yoon Seiya left the home theater room to investigate. Even though my body is fine, he couldn't refuse his niece's request. Seong Jihan smirked and looked at the screen on the wall. She didn't turn off the screen. If he was going to take a day off, maybe he should watch the news here for a bit. Seong Jihan looked around for the remote control and pressed various buttons. This remote control from the past was quite different from the future's, and he wasn't sure which button did what. After pressing a button mistakenly, the black screen changed, revealing the storage space of the home theater. Several folder names caught Seong Jihan's eye. Among them was something eye-catching. Dad's Podji Collection, Podji, play of the game. The scene selected when the most impressive play is performed in international games. In most of Korea's Podji from international matches, the Sword King was often featured. And also, Sword King family-related videos, Dad's Speech Collection. And so on, the storage space of the home theater was filled with videos related to Sword King Yoon Sejin. Seong Jihan realized something when he saw this. This seems to be videos from the past when she was a fan. Yoon Seiya had become proficient in video editing, an idol of fandom. And the subject was none other than Sword King Yoon Sejin. It's quite plausible. After all, Seiya admired her father. He was ranked 3rd in the world and 1st in the warrior class. The Sword King Yoon Sejin, a name known to everyone around the world. He had a gentle and harmonious personality and cherished his only daughter greatly. He was a father that any child would love and admire. She's pretending to be calm. It probably wasn't easy since the dad she loved and admired so much had abandoned her. There's no way she'd be able to easily forget that. Beep. Seong Jihan turned off the screen with a determined expression and left the room. Seiya's birthday is coming up soon. Even though he had forgotten the phone number he used in Korea, he hadn't forgotten his niece's birthday. August 22nd. That day was not only Yoon Seiya's birthday but it's also her Memorial Day. This upcoming birthday will be the day Seiya receives her gift. People worldwide eagerly awaited their 18th birthdays because, among the few players that awakened gifts, they all received them on their 18th birthdays. I wonder what kind of gift Seiya will receive. It was a subject of great interest. The daughter of Sword King Yoon Sejin and Saintess Seong Jia. Even though there was no correlation between the rank and inheritance of gifts, still, people's psychology led them to expect that if both parents had exceptional gifts, their child should too. This country was no different. Even the nation wondered if Yoon Se would receive a remarkable gift that would follow in the Sword King's footsteps. Until just before her birthday, despite public criticism, they had taken a stance to protect her. But when her birthday arrived, the gift Yoon Se received was shocking. It was F rank. An F rank gift, which was considered not much better than having no gift at all. That birthday, Jihan saw despair on Se's face for the first time. She'd even managed to remain calm when Sword King Yoon Sejin had left for Japan, but after receiving an F rank gift on her birthday, she couldn't maintain her facade. That gift was Se's last hope, after all, when she was being criticized by the nation as the daughter of Sword King Yoon Sejin. The only thing that could potentially turn the situation around was receiving an exceptional gift, but the gift she received was F rank. The public responded by criticizing and ridiculing her, saying that her father had left her behind because of her talent. But they didn't know the value of that gift at that time. Nobody knew that an F rank gift had the potential to surpass an SSS rank 1. When it was revealed that the world's ranked second, from China, had the same gift as her, it was already too late. By that time, Yoon Se had already left the world. But this time, things will be different. I'll make sure that the public that blamed you for your father's betrayal, they will beg for your forgiveness and plead for you to stay in Korea. Definitely. Seong Jihan's eyes gleamed coldly. The next day Seong Jihan was preparing to participate in the government-sponsored auction. The auction would take place on the second floor of the Sword Palace in the event hall of the huge, mixed-use building. Uncle, are you ready? Sia was standing before the penthouse's dressing room, holding a huge camera. It looked like an expensive camera. She probably bought it in the past to film the Sword King. I'm almost done, but are you already shooting? Yes. I was just checking if it was working well. Sia waved her hand before the camera. Hello, everyone, it's Sia. Can you see me? Then she checked the messages on her smartphone. Yes. It looks good. The niece is the best. She's still in high school. Everyone, be careful what you say. That makes it better. Mr. Police Officer, over here. Most of the viewers' responses were positive, but a traitor's daughter, Ms. Yoon. You shouldn't be with the guy who broke the Sword King's symbol. Who does he think he is to sell the Sword King's connector? Ms. Yoon. You must stop him. There were also some malicious messages. It seems like it's working well. Sia put her smartphone into her pocket and grabbed the camera again. All right. As you all know, today is the auction day. All right. As everyone knows, today's the auction day. You're even making commentaries now. Of course. I'm also a camera woman, after all. Besides, I'm the one who selected the auction items, so I have a significant stake in this broadcast. The camera closed in on Jihan. Uncle, who always wears tracksuits, has dressed up nicely today. I can't believe my uncle is wearing a suit. I think that it's the first time since I was born. Is that so? Jihan put on his tie while chuckling. He was 27 years old at the moment and had spent most of his life gambling and lazing around home, so he'd never had to wear a suit. But why are you so good at putting on a tie? Have you been practicing? Do I look like a kid to you? Actually, he became proficient at doing it while living in the United States, since he'd had many formal dinners to attend. Jihan frowned after putting on the suit. It's a bit small. Oh, uncle, your shoulders aren't as narrow as before. I didn't have narrow shoulders. Yes, you did. At Sea's sharp remark, Jihan shook his head, took off his jacket, and walked somewhere. Sia followed him. She lowered her voice after seeing where they were. Everyone, this is my dad's dressing room. He had broad shoulders, so they should fit. That's true, but I didn't think you would wear dad's clothes. Clothes aren't to be blamed, right? After saying that, Jihan took the jacket of his brother-in-law, Yoon Sejin. Sia, who was quietly filming, whispered to the camera as if she'd remembered something. Now that I think about it, while picking items for the auction, I also came to this room. Dad's a watch maniac, so he had many expensive watches. Watches? Jihan listened to her. I was thinking that, if there were any left, I'd put them up for auction or donate them. She made a zero with her fingers in front of the camera. Whoa. There weren't any watches left. He even took those? Jihan laughed in disbelief. Not only that, but all the rings and necklaces even disappeared, including the couple rings he'd matched with Mom. Really, isn't he amazing? He left his daughter behind, but he took all of his possessions without leaving anything. Dad's truly meticulous. Jihan quickly approached her after her sarcastic comment. Her feelings were understandable, but if she continued, the chat would surely explode. Sia shouldn't be drawing the Sword King's fans' attention already. Sia, let's go. Okay, uncle. Jihan took the private elevator with Yoon Sia and went down. Now that I think about it, it's the first time I've come out of the penthouse. He'd been living a secluded life, while he was thinking that he should go outside more often. Uncle, we're here. Okay. Jihan entered the event hall on the second floor. The event hall, which had been transformed into an auction house, was filled with reporters. Click. Click. Mr. Seong, what's the purpose of today's auction? Isn't selling the Sword King's belongings an official statement that he won't return? Even though the government officials were blocking the reporters, countless flashes flickered toward Jihan and Sia. Jihan had asked that the auction be covered only on his channel, so the reporters couldn't get inside, which was why they were trying their best to approach them. But since Jihan just gave them a cold look, they changed their target to Sia. Ms. Yoon. Ms. Yoon. People are wondering why you've decided to donate the building. There are many people that think that it's because of your uncle Jihan's influence. Your relatives from your paternal side are asking you to pick up the phone. They say that Mr. Seong is a scammer. Even though Jihan was there, the reporters still dared to say such a thing. Maybe it was because he was going to monopolize the broadcast of the auction, but the reporters didn't have positive opinions of Jihan. Uncle, a scammer? Don't say nonsense, ignore them. As Sia got angry, Jihan wrapped his arm around her shoulders and moved her away. Giving them a response would only make them more excited. Those people, damn it. It's been a while since they were cut off, yet. Jihan knew who Sia was complaining about. Sword King Yoon Sejin's relatives. To be precise, they were Yoon Sejin's younger siblings. They were cut off after committing fraud in his name. After enduring as much as possible, Sejin exploded and made a press conference to say he would cut his ties with them, and after Yoon Sejin went to Japan, they tried to get close to Sia to extract money from her in any way possible. After the government took the building, they were at the forefront of the attacks towards Sejin and Sia. The relatives abandoned their lingering attachment to Sia after the building was confiscated by the state, and they even started appearing on gossip TV programs as panel members to criticize the traitor Sword King and his daughter. Mr. Seong, please. Wait, Ms. Yoon, an interview, please. Jihan ignored the reporters and entered the auction site. Ms. Yoon, we'll be in charge of filming. Could you give us the camera? Ah, yes. Of course. As soon as they entered the event hall, the Battle.net Administration Office's manager, Park Yoon-sik, walked toward them. Sia had to participate instead of film. Jihan walked toward Yoon-sik and shook hands. It's been a while, Manager Park. Yes, you must have had a hard time on the way here, Jihan. Not at all. We were upstairs, after all. Haha. The reporters were a bit aggressive, weren't they? It was nothing. Thanks to the government blocking them, I was able to walk comfortably. Park Yoon-sik looked at Jihan with curiosity. I felt it before, but he's completely different now. He doesn't seem nervous at all. Anyone would be slightly taken aback when so many reporters were charging at them, but Jihan was completely unflustered. Now, please, come this way. I'll take the guests, so you keep filming with this camera. Understood, Manager. Yoon-sik handed the camera to a staff member and guided Jihan and Sia himself. The temporary auction house was mostly empty, and all of the items that would be auctioned off were lined up on the stage. Below that, 12 large, round tables were set up with people sitting around them, and in the center of each table was a name tag indicating their affiliation. Most of them were from the top 10 guilds, but there was a different table at the far right end. The name tag for the table where only 3 people were sitting was different from the rest. Japanese Embassy. They weren't Korean, but they were Japanese people. Jihan smirked after seeing that. They came. The people who would pay the most for the items were there. Well, since the sellers are here, let's start the auction. As Jihan and Sia sat down, the auctioneer began talking. There are 3 items that will be put up for auction. In reality, Jihan originally planned to sell only Yoon Sejin's Battle.net connector, but there were more things that Sia came up with as he was training. First, Yoon Sejin's Battle.net connector. Second, an external hard drive with the backup data for the Battle.net connector. And third, an analysis of East Asia's and Korea's top players. When the host explained the 3 items, the representatives of the top 10 guilds showed interest. The Sword King's data analysis sounds good. The Battle.net information analysis company he had was quite good. Was that company sold to the USA? Yes. I felt uneasy from the moment the Sword King sold the USA the information analysis company that had been supporting him. I never thought things would turn out like this. The representatives talked to each other and seemed interested in the data. The host observed their reactions for a moment and then resumed. Well, then let's resume the auction. The first item that will come out is... Wait a moment. On the far right side, a middle-aged bald man with a sharp mustache got up from the Japanese embassy's table. What can I do for you? If it's regarding the auction, please state your affiliation and name. In response to the host's question, he answered in a light tone. Haha, yes. I'm Takada Kazuo, recruitment manager of Japan's Neo Self-Defense Force. You're from the Neo Self-Defense Force? Yes. The host, being Korean, didn't sound pleased, but Takada began to talk in fluent Korean. Yes. We have a proposal to make to Mr. Seong and Ms. Yoon. The host gave Jihan a questioning look. Jihan nodded. Yes. We're going to buy all 3 for 50 billion yen? 50 billion yen? Yes. We're offering about 500 million United States dollars. The auction house suddenly became noisy. Buying all of those items for 500 million? It was a huge amount of money that far exceeded the price the participants had thought of. It was something that they wouldn't even dare to consider. However, Takada kept talking while rubbing his hands and looking at Jihan, his gaze firmly set. I would like to have a private conversation with Mr. Seong and Ms. Yoon. 50 billion. With those words, the excitement in the auction hall cooled down as if cold water had been poured over it. That Battle.net connector might go for around 20 billion if it's brand new. If he were the former Sword King, there would probably be a premium on the item, but now, it's basically just secondhand. Even though the data is somewhat tempting, is it really worth 500 million? This is unbelievable. The auction seems pointless. The moment Takada Kazuo of Japan's Neo Self-Defense Force mentioned 500 million, the auction might as well have already ended. How will you proceed? When the auctioneer asked Seong Jihan, he stood up and walked forward with determined steps. If there's something you want to discuss, let's do it here. I'm sorry, but the conditions for 50 billion yen include exclusive rights. Takada Kazuo lowered his head excessively and folded his hands, but his demeanor contradicted his words. Despite his attitude, the underlying meaning was clear. If you want the 500 million, a private conversation is a must. The slight lift of the corner of his mouth seemed to say, you won't back down from this proposal, will you? Watching this, Seong Jihan smirked. Then I'll have to decline. Yes, of course, let's go and have a private meeting. Wait. Takada Kazuo, who was rubbing his hands, stopped in surprise and straightened up. He seemed confused, wondering if he had misheard, then asked hesitantly while bowing his head. I'm sorry, could you please repeat that? I'm not very familiar with Korean, so I might have misheard. Bowing again, he asked for an answer. If a private conversation is among the conditions, we won't take that money. Mr. Seong Jihan, I'm sorry, but this money isn't for you. It's an amount that will be given to Yoon Seo, the daughter of the Sword King. Why are you stepping in when this 500 billion isn't yours in the first place? The smile disappeared from Takada's face. Isn't that right, Ms. Yoon Seo? 50 billion yen, for someone like me, a mere salaryman, it's an amount that I couldn't earn even if I saved every penny for a lifetime. I don't know what your uncle is thinking, but please judge it rationally as the one who will actually receive the money. Can you really give up on this money just based on your uncle's words? 50 billion is an astronomical amount, as Takada said. Even the viewers watching the auction progress on Seong Jihan's channel could somewhat empathize with his words. It's too much money to refuse. Is today's broadcast already about to end? That seems to be the case. After all, it's his niece who will receive the money. Would she really just stand by and watch his uncle squirm? Yoon Seo will still live well even after donating to Sword Palace. The donation hasn't been confirmed yet. The Sword King will come back. Are you crazy? How could you say that after he sent that bald Japanese guy? Yoon Seo glanced at Seong Jihan for a moment. Although she couldn't guess why he was refusing to have a private conversation, the answer to Takada was already clear. I trust uncle. So please talk to him. Hua, is that so? Takada sighed and then straightened his previously hunched back. He had attempted to shake things up through Yunsei, but it only solidified their already pronounced connection. Did the manipulation fail? Tisk tisk, she's young. Once she experiences social life, she would haggle even if it were 100 million, not 50 billion. She's the Sword King's daughter. Ms. Yoon. You trust Jihan? The Sword King fan club is warning you. If you keep being bewitched by Jihan, we won't recognize you as the Sword King's daughter. The Sword King's fans have gone mad. Unaware of the chaotic chat messages, Seong Jihan nodded approvingly at Yoon Seiya and then turned his gaze back to Takada. Since Seiya is also saying this, if you have something to say, please say it here instead of having a private conversation. Well, why are you so insistent on refusing a private conversation? I'm saying this because I'm being considerate of your position. It's fine. Talking privately with the Neo Self-Defense Force recruitment manager for 500 million? That wasn't a good image. He had no idea what people might say. They might criticize the fact that the father sold out for a woman and the daughter for money. Of course, the criticism could be endured to some extent considering the astronomical amount of 500 million. But there will come a time when money isn't scarce anymore. If Seong Jihan continued to grow as a player, the money would naturally follow. Such a moment had come in his previous life, and it would arrive even sooner this time. And, that Takada guy, he gives me an uneasy feeling. More precisely, he was uneasy about the position of the Neo Self-Defense Force recruitment manager. I heard about him during the time of my asylum in the US. The US government banned the entry of the Neo Self-Defense Force recruitment manager. There was a recruitment manager in the Neo Self-Defense Force who was skilled at luring promising individuals from the US, so the US government had prohibited his entry. It was said that there was something strange with him. Regardless of race or gender, when that bald recruitment manager got involved, people seemed to be irresistibly drawn to Japan, which clearly means that he had some peculiar gift. It was best to be cautious. It seems like your mind won't change. Takada, who had been hesitating for a moment, rubbed his palms together again. Phew, I understand. Mr. Seong and Ms. Yoon. I've lost. I'll proceed with the purchase of those items for 50 billion yen. Whoa. What is this? He's just giving 50 billion yen away. In fact, the money is something the Sword King wanted to give, regardless of the private talk, so what needs to be given should be given. With those words, the chat exploded. Whoa. The private talk was never among the conditions in the first place. That's why you mustn't negotiate with a Japanese person. As expected, this is why one must be careful of bald people. You might insult Japan, but stop insulting bald people. Everyone, you might also lose your hair at any point in your lives. Takada pulled out a paper from his pocket. I was originally going to read this in private, but since you refuse, I will convey Sword King Ito's message here. The Sword King's message? There was such a thing? Everyone looked at him. Sia, I've heard you will donate the Sword Palace. I'm not sure why you made such a decision. Consider this your last bit of inheritance from me. You should be able to live comfortably with this money. Takada cleared his throat before he continued reading the last sentence with particular emphasis. And with this, our relationship as father and daughter is over, so don't expect a next time. At those words, Jihan's expression went cold. The Sword King was basically telling her to take it and never bother him again. Yes, if you look here, Takada gave them the paper. Sia, who was standing next to Jihan, spoke in a toneless voice. It's Dad's handwriting. Yes, 500 million. To most people, it's an astronomical amount of money. However, for the Sword King, who ranked third in the world rankings and first in the warrior rankings, it wasn't actually a large sum. In fact, he probably earned more money than that in a month. But he's cutting the parent-child bond with this? At least he said, sorry, to his daughter before he left Korea, but that had changed to him proudly saying he would sever their bond. Despite everything, Jihan's brother-in-law had seemed like someone who cherished his daughter a lot. He wasn't such a piece of trash. Jihan, rather than being angry, are the rumors about the beauty gift true? He began to suspect the rumor Park Yoon-sik had mentioned about an SSS rank gift called beauty was real. Haha, meanwhile, Sia let out a dry laugh as she looked at the letter. Mr. Kazuo, yes. Please tell Mr. Ryuhei that I'll make good use of this final inheritance and that I'll gladly cut the parent-child bond, just as he wishes. She took the paper from Jihan's hand and tore it into pieces. "Uncle, should we go back?" Sei-ah was smiling brightly, with no changes showing in her expression, but nobody believed the smile to be genuine. "Ah, that's right. Trash shouldn't be thrown on the ground." Sei-ah prepared to pick up the pieces, but her hands were trembling. Her body was resisting the very act of picking up the pieces of paper with her dad's handwriting. Seeing this, Seong Jihan reached out to the ground. "Leave it. I'll take care of it." The pieces of paper began floating into the air. Force was a supreme power that ruled over space, and it was a product of combining divine power and magic power. Instead of being used inside a game, it was used for the first time in real life to levitate pieces of paper. "What's that? What's he doing? What is Seong Jihan doing right now? Isn't he a warrior? Is he a magician? He didn't even chant the spell." The viewers were confused. From what Jihan had shown them, they thought he was a warrior, so the spectacle they were seeing was completely unexpected. Is his gift related to telekinesis? The debate regarding the source of Jihan's power continued. "Fire," Jihan spouted, and the pieces of paper burned and turned into ash. Those watching reached a conclusion. "Fire? He's a mage? He's a mage. To think that the person who reached 10 kills in a survival is a mage class." Jihan hadn't revealed his status window, so those who hadn't seen him participate in the defense game as a support naturally thought he was a warrior, but as he used fire, and it was revealed he was a mage, the chat window fell into chaos. "Now you don't have to worry about trash, Uncle." Sia stared blankly at the fire. She had a brighter expression than before. "Were you a mage?" "That's a secret for the moment. To me, too." Jihan smiled and looked at the camera. "I'll reveal it once I reach 200,000 subscribers." Jihan's channel had high views but not many subscribers. After all, the number of views had increased because of Sword King related news, so it was a good opportunity to finish the subscriber related achievements. While thinking that, Jihan took his gaze away from the camera. "Oh, what's going on? Mr. Seong, weren't you a warrior class? On top of that, what's this strength?" Takada, who was watching everything unfold before him, had his face red with excitement. Takada Kazuo, the recruitment manager of the Neo Self-Defense Force. As expected of someone who'd reached the position of recruitment director of Japan's top guild, he noticed something from what Jihan showed that other people couldn't. "Mr. Seong." Takada quickly handed him a business card. "Please contact us. We'll give you the best treatment we can offer, I promise," as the recruitment manager of the Neo Self-Defense Force. Jihan stared at the business card, and then he raised his index finger, and Takada's business card began floating and then spun around Jihan's finger. Soon after, rip, they heard the card being torn apart. Rip. 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 Ah. The business card was torn into pieces and then into even smaller pieces that soon turned to dust and vanished. It only took 10 seconds. The auction house, which had been quiet until a moment before, was filled with a buzzing sound. Rather than using magic power, Jihan had torn the card to pieces with force. Since the real world had many more restrictions than the game, it was a strength beyond a Bronze League player. "This is my answer." Jihan turned away. Takada trembled, and the camera caught Jihan's back. What was that earlier? This time, it definitely wasn't magic. How can someone wield such power in reality? He used ki back then, didn't he? What kind of gift does he possess? A player's abilities are constrained in reality from as low as 50% to as high as 90%, and that's why those who knew this, the power of force, displayed by Seong Jihan was shocking. A power that can turn a business card into dust in just 10 seconds in reality. He might be able to destroy an opponent's organs instantly inside the game. No, even without destroying anything, just piercing a hole somewhere vital could result in a fatal injury. The representatives of the teenage guild that participated in the auction were amazed by Seong Jihan's displayed power. Bronze League player Seong Jihan, while he had achieved impressive results in the league so far, the risk of being the brother-in-law of the Sword King had made guilds hesitate to offer him a contract. However, his unique ability was attractive enough to outweigh this risk. Even if he's a bronze who hasn't revealed his status window so far, his track record is good, and he possesses special abilities. We must recruit him. The guild representatives had come to the auction to seek Seong Jihan rather than the auction items. But among them, one person was particularly eager. That power, it's real. It was Takada, whose business card had been torn right in front of them. Ha! The 4th ranked guild in the world has been rejected by a Bronze League player. The Baldy is pissed. Takada was sweating with a flushed face as if it were raining. From the view captured by the camera, it seemed like he was angry about the business card being torn by Seong Jihan, but in reality, it wasn't the case. Watching Seong Jihan turn the business card into dust, he was celebrating internally. To think he'd completely turn it into dust. He sensed something great in how he used that mysterious energy. Mr. Seong, I'm definitely going to recruit you. Takada's eyes were shining with greed. I'll have a meeting with you. Then, I'll be able to have you, hee. Takada was sure that one meeting was all he needed. To do that, he first needed to win his favor. The chat flooded Seong Jihan's channel after Takada's expression. Why does that guy's facial expression look like that? He seems like a pervert, someone get rid of him. All the disgusting ones are here. As Takada smirked and descended with a smug smile, the camera captured the moment. At that moment, everyone in the chat room united in agreement. However, the temporarily peaceful chat room of Seong Jihan's channel, Take Shan, has donated 10,000 GP. Seong sang, it was nice meeting you today. Next time, let's definitely meet face to face in a one-to-one chat. If you unblock private messages, I'll donate even more. Your eternal fan, Take Shan. When Take Shan sent a donation message, chaos erupted once again. Take Shan? Could it be? Is it the Baldy from earlier? Wow, sending 10 million won. The first donation message on this channel is from a Japanese person. Why is this old man's message so creepy? Upon receiving a donation, Seong Jihan paused for a moment. Although he couldn't see the messages from regular people in Seong Jihan's chat due to the block, he could see the donation message. Thus, he could also read the message Takada had written while sending 10,000 GP. Received a donation of 10,000 GP. Cleared the regular achievement, steadfast support, 1. Obtained 1,000 achievement points as a reward. He gained GP and even earned achievement points. Looking at the results alone, it could be called a windfall, however. My channel's first donation is from Take Chan, or rather, Takada. A slight furrow appeared on Seong Jihan's forehead. Such a first-time donation remains in the records for a long time. Especially for a player like Seong Jihan who aims to become the world's top-ranked player. I should have set a lower limit. On that day, Seong Jihan regretted his actions for the first time. After the auction ended, Mr. Seong Jihan, I'm Kim Jin-won, a scout from the Turtle Guild. Could I have a moment to talk? Mr. Seong Jihan, I was deeply impressed by your earlier performance. Originally, the participants who had intended to purchase Yoon Sejin's item had all gathered around him, but impressed by the performance of turning the business card into dust a little while ago, they were people who wanted to recruit Seong Jihan. Among them were scouts from the teenage guilds and even quite famous players. If another bronze player were in this situation, they would be inevitably excited. However, I have no intention of joining a guild. It's so annoying. Seong Jihan found it bothersome. Still, he couldn't be as adamantly dismissive as he had been to Takada earlier. Thank you. As you can see, I'm still a bit confused, so joining a guild is a bit. Seong Jihan struggled to decline the guild invitation gently. And when Yoon Seo received the camera from Park Yoon Sik, she saw his expression and couldn't help but inwardly smile. His expression, though he had the face of a polite young man, it was clear that he was annoyed to death. I have to help him, it's the only way. With a slightly despondent look, she approached Seong Jihan. Uncle, her voice trailed off, her face slightly quivering. Seeing her like this, Seong Jihan was surprised and quickly went over to her. Seiya, what happened? What's wrong, Uncle? Today has been really tough for me. Can we just go home now? While saying this, Yoon Seo winked slightly. Seeing her acting, Seong Jihan caught on and gave her a faint smile. He promptly responded to her acting. Really? I apologize, scouts. My niece seems to be in quite a bad condition today. Oh, I see. Since she had a lot going on today. Yes, then we'll hear your words another time, sorry. After a hurried farewell, Seong Jihan quickly took Yoon Seo and left the event hall. Uncle, I did well, didn't I? I put on a special act because you looked so annoyed. Yeah, you did well. He remembered Yoon Seo's slightly trembling face, though it was more like an understated sobbing rather than acting. Until just before Yoon Seo winked, he had really wondered what had happened. Great acting, I guess. Seong Ji-han gently stroked Yoon Se's head. Still, I was worried. Really, uncle, you worry too much. Even though I look like this, I'm the student council president at school. Yoon Se looked up at his hand as if she didn't quite like it, but she didn't tell him to remove it. Uncle, be careful. It seems you'll fall for any girl that tears up a bit. Don't worry. Your uncle has mastered understanding women's emotions. HMPH, you only watched BattleNet at home. What you've learned through video games doesn't count. As they walked side by side in the elevator, they shared a friendly moment. Ding dong. Two women who had been standing in front of the elevator approached them. You two have a really good relationship. A dazzlingly beautiful woman and a tall female bodyguard following her. Seong Ji-han's eyebrows twitched because he recognized one of them. So Lim Gaeong is working as a bodyguard these days. Yoon Se asked with a bewildered expression, who are they? Hello. Miss Yoon Se and Mr. Seong Ji-han. I'm Lee Haeyeon, the third department head at Divergent Guild. Head. Doesn't head seem too young for me? Yes, that's because I was parachuted in. In response to Yoon Se's question, she casually referred to herself as a parachute. If she entered the Divergent Guild as a parachute, then there might be some connection between her and the parent company, the Divergent Corporation. From her family name, it could be inferred that Lee Haeyeon had some connection with the Divergent Corporation, even though it wasn't clear how much. But, Seong Ji-han stared at Lee Haeyeon's face. A face more beautiful than most celebrities on TV. She, who held both looks and wealth, exuded confidence in her demeanor. However, what caught Seong Ji-han's attention wasn't just her confident beauty. This person, where have I seen her before? Lee Haeyeon. The name was not in his memory, but the appearance, the self-assured attitude, and the voice. For some reason, it seemed familiar. With such an impression, it might be someone he had met during his time in the United States. Who is she? Meanwhile, as Seong Ji-han stared at her intensely, a smile deepened on Lee Haeyeon's lips. She slowly parted her lips and spoke softly. Mr. Seong Ji-han, I was truly impressed by your recent performance. Especially because I was a subscriber to your previous channel, the experience was novel for me. I was a subscriber to my previous channel? Yes, I've been a longtime fan since you started making predictions on BattleNet matches. I've been astonished by your keen judgment more than once. I could never have imagined that you would become such an exceptional player. Guesser of the victory, Mr. Seong. This channel had been the one that sustained Seong Ji-han during his previous life's extreme situation. Seong Ji-han, with a record-breaking success rate of 62% in match predictions. People flocked to see his match predictions, and through this, Seong Ji-han was able to make a comeback. However, at this time, there are very few people who would know about this channel. Unless someone is a fan of match predictions to a fanatic degree, they might not even know of this channel's existence. To subscribe to this, suddenly, someone came to mind for Seong Ji-han. A woman who loved gambling more than anyone else but always ended up failing. A woman who possessed one of the world's rarest gifts. No way. Seong Ji-han stared intensely at Lee Haeyeon. Ah, uncle. Yoon Se nudged his waist with her elbow and gave him a meaningful look. Just a while ago, he was boasting about mastering women's hearts, so why was he suddenly at a loss for words? It's okay. Lee Haeyeon smiled leisurely and gently stroked her own face. That gesture was exactly the same as her. I might need to test this out once. Seong Ji-han slowly opened his mouth. While the world is full of possibilities, it is difficult to ignore that. Yes. A famous quote by Dostoevsky, a great writer, better known for his gambling addiction. When Seong Ji-han suddenly mentioned this, Lee Haeyeon's smile momentarily stiffened. This is your motto, right, Ms. Lee Haeyeon? Oh my, ho. You're being a bit much for a first meeting. I'm not even a gambling addict or anything. Lee Haeyeon tried to smile despite hearing that, but, how did you know? Lim Gaeong, who had been standing behind her guarding her, now stood in front of her. How did you know something she says all the time? Gaeong, no, I didn't do anything like that. Could you be a stalker? Young. I didn't do anything. Although the young woman's words didn't reach his ears, Lim Gaeong glared at Seong Ji-han with a stern look. Seeing that, Seong Ji-han could feel his speculations falling into place. Although it was still early to be certain if Lee Haeyeon was indeed her. Seong Ji-han's eyes sharpened. She's someone I must recruit on my side. Manager 0. A woman who, despite being an immigrant, became the leader of the American First Guild's second division due to her unique gift. The Lee Haeyeon that Seong Ji-han knew was none other than 0, a woman with an outstanding ability. Manager 0. The gift she possessed was none other than nurturing. Supporting gift, nurturing. Supporting gift was the ability to assist players outside of the game. It was an ability that was ignored in the tutorial stage as it was deemed not very useful. However, after the tutorial ended, as the world fell into chaos and the grades of gifts began to grow, the supporting gift started to receive attention. Among them, nurturing was considered the highest. The gift, nurturing. Players with this gift could accelerate the growth speed of other players. At the tutorial stage, it only provided a 10% experience buff to a few players, so it didn't garner much attention. The experience buff during the tutorial was the same as the blessing of growth that guilds could purchase with GP. Since it didn't overlap, there was no need to focus on those with this gift. But things changed after the tutorial period. After the tutorial, guilds couldn't purchase experience buffs with GP anymore, and the range of the gift, nurturing, expanded significantly compared to the tutorial period. The ability, which only affected experience points, now applied across all fields, from stat growth speed to gift grade upgrades, after the tutorial. It was also revealed that the higher the position in the guild, the wider the range of targets that nurturing could be used on, leading to this once ignored gift gradually gaining attention. Subsequently, anyone holding a managerial position in famous guilds had to possess the gift of nurturing. Among them, the one with the highest grade was Manager 0. Manager 0 was an extraordinary figure even within the American First Guild. She wore a steel mask that covered her entire face except for her lips, which were covered in burn scars. Even though the priestess offered to heal her, she refused, claiming it was the price she paid to make a deal with a demon. So initially, it was impossible to connect Lee Haeyeon and 0. But apart from her face, her voice, physique, and actions were all very similar to 0's. Her distinctive gestures, her gambling addiction, and even the fact that her name was 0. Manager 0 was a compulsive gambler. And as is often the case with the fate of gamblers, her fortune was always 0. Ji-han, I know you very well. You're the guesser of the victory, right? Help me a bit. What should I bet on these days? At the party of the American First Guild approaching Seong Ji-han, who was pretending to be an immigrant, Manager 0, claiming to be Korean herself, pestered him to make predictions. But even when he predicted for her, she had a clear bias. Ji-han, yeah. How about this guy? Diego Massid. The gift with an SSS grade is called God of Soccer. Who plays soccer anymore? I'm sure he's going to lose. If I bet against him, I should be able to win, right? How many times do I need to tell you no? Do you think an SSS gift is given to just anyone? Let me tell you again, Massid's going to win. TCH, I know your win rate well. It's 62%, but this time it will be one of the 38%, a case where you lose. Whenever 0 said such things, the result was always Seong Ji-han winning. Shit, he should just play soccer. Why is he hitting a cannonball? Did you think anyone can get a SSS grade gift? No, it's not that. Next time, I'll win. You should stop gambling. While the world is full of possibilities, it is difficult to ignore that. 0. The only possibility for you is losing. Shut up. Ignoring all advice and drinking vodka, 0 continued to taunt. However, no matter how drunk she got, she never removed her mask, instead sighing heavily. Hey. Why did you become stronger only now? Yes, if you had been this strong in Korea, my friend might not have died like that. You bastard, no, I don't have the right to say that. I'm a terrible person myself too, shit. 0 was an alcoholic and a gambling addict. Any normal company would have fired her, yet she was able to get so far within the American First Guild due to her unique nurturing gift. It was on a different level. Even the experience buff ratio she provided started at a minimum of 100%. The talents she had nurtured in the second division alone were like a truckload. I must recruit 0, the woman in front of him, despite wearing a mask and being covered in burn scars, looked completely different from the 0 who had a completely different appearance. Somehow, Seong Ji-han had a feeling that she was 0. He would be certain if he just could confirm her gift. But in my current situation, recruiting her is impossible. Lee Haeyeon, a high-ranking executive of the best-performing guild in Korea and an heir to a conglomerate family. Compared to her, Seong Ji-han was promising but still just a bronze player, so there was no way for him to recruit Lee Haeyeon into his faction. First, I need to focus on finding individuals with potential like Zero. While Seong Ji-han was organizing his thoughts, Lim Gaeong, who was standing in front of Lee Haeyeon, demanded an answer from him. Please answer, Seong Ji-han. How do you know the Mrs. phrase? Seong Ji-han casually replied to Lim Gaeong's stern gaze. It's a phrase I saw often in the chat window when I used to run the prediction channel. I mentioned it just in case since she said that she was a subscriber. Miss, did you use that phrase in the chat room? Well. How about we stop this topic now, Gaeong? I was just planning to give some excuse, but she doesn't seem to want to let go. Seong Ji-han grabbed Lim Gaeong's shoulder and looked back at Lee Haeyeon, who had stepped forward again, with a wry smile. Unlike a little while ago, Seong Ji-han seemed more relaxed, and although Lee Haeyeon's eyebrows twitched slightly, she soon opened her mouth with a smile. You even remember the chat of your subscribers. You're quite attentive, Seong Ji-han. It's nothing. Anyway, I came here for a reason, which is that I want to recruit you into the Divergent Guild. Into the Divergent Guild, you say? Yes, Seong Ji-han, first. When Lee Haeyeon was about to make a formal recruitment offer, Seong Ji-han interrupted her. I'm sorry, but today doesn't seem like a good day. My niece's condition isn't great, so I should probably go now. Right. Was it because she didn't expect Seong Ji-han to refuse without even listening, or because she didn't know Seong Ji-han would reject so decisively? Lee Haeyeon briefly showed a puzzled expression, but soon composed herself. That's true. If your niece isn't feeling well, there's nothing to be done, then. With a twinkle in her eye, she looked up at Seong Ji-han from below. Could you give me your phone number? My number? Yes. At the mention of exchanging phone numbers, Lim Gaeong's expression behind them slightly stiffened. Was it because she remembered the time when she had asked him for his number and got harshly rejected? Come to think of it, I still don't know my number. Many things had happened recently, so he hadn't thought of finding his phone number. He didn't have a reason to use it in the first place. Seong Ji-han glanced briefly at Lim Gaeong and gave the same answer as before. I'm sorry. I can't remember my phone number. What? In response to Seong Ji-han's answer, Lee Haeyeon's smiling face turned rigid. Even Yoon Se, who was next to him, had an incredulous expression. Why didn't he know his phone number? Se, what was my number again? His uncle nonchalantly asked her for his phone number. Seong Ji-han had genuinely forgotten and asked, but Se thought to herself, no way, my smart uncle wouldn't suddenly forget his own number. She shook her head. What's the intention behind this? Is he uncomfortable with the guild joining topic? Or, is he playing hard to get? Both possibilities seemed plausible to her. Uncle was distracted and looking at her earlier. Among the two possibilities, she cautiously leaned towards the idea of him playing hard to get. If that was the intention, she should help him play along. Uncle, I don't know your phone number either. Really? Yeah, of course it's saved on my phone. I happen to leave my phone at home though, it's not here. Yoon Se reached into her pocket and then showed her empty hands. Actually, her phone was inside the pocket, but people didn't catch on to that. Well, I left mine upstairs too. Guess there's nothing we can do. Could I get your business card if you have one? Sure. He doesn't remember his phone number, and on top of that, he left his phone upstairs? Both of them? Could such a coincidence happen? Unfazed, Lee Haeyeon smiled and took a business card from her hand. Here you go. Taking the card she handed over, Seong Ji-han looked at Yoon Se. Thank you. Well, I'll contact you next time. Shall we go, Se? Yeah, uncle. Yoon Se gave a light farewell to Lee Haeyeon's group and took the penthouse elevator with Seong Ji-han. Watching their departure with a formal smile, Lee Haeyeon stood still as if frozen in place. Ding! As the elevator doors closed, she let out a sigh as if in disbelief. He doesn't know his own phone number, being rejected with such a ridiculous excuse. Ms. Lee. When Ji-han blatantly stared at her, she thought the recruitment would go smoothly. She didn't expect things to turn out that way, pf. What? It's nothing, Miss Gaeong, if you have something to say, say it. It's nothing. Lee Haeyeon turned away. Lim Gaeong stood expressionless, but the corner of her mouth was twitching incessantly. There's something you want to say, isn't there? I remembered the way you used to mock me in the past, peeved. Lee Haeyeon gritted her teeth. She was laughed at for an absurd reason and even received a smirk from Lim Gaeong. Watch and see, Seong Jihan, no matter what, I'll make sure to recruit you and get you to say, head, and even further, miss. Looking at the penthouse elevator, Lee Haeyeon's eyes sparkled. Inside the elevator. Uncle, but playing hard to get like that, it's not really cool. Yoon Seo was offering her advice as a girl to her uncle. What are you talking about, playing hard to get? Weren't you aiming for he's the first man to reject me, tisk, that's too old. These days, it's better to be direct. It seems like you've misunderstood me. Jihan looked at Seo with a dumbfounded look. She'd misunderstood something. Ahem, this niece of yours is quite perceptive. I understand perfectly. Uncle, it's not like you wouldn't know your own phone number. But I really don't know. Oh, really? 010384, isn't this it? Oh, right, that's the number. Seeming to finally understand, Seong Jihan nodded, and Yoon Seo looked at him with a surprised expression. You really didn't know? Your own phone number? Yeah. Should I have told you earlier? Did I interfere with Uncle's romance business for nothing? Romance? Me and Lee Haeyeon? Yeah, Uncle, you were zoning out while looking at her earlier. Romance with the seriously alcoholic, gambling-addicted Zero? Seong Jihan shook his head with a disgusted expression. Whatever. I can't stand gambling addicts, really. Even though he was a gambling addict not too long ago, is this some kind of self-loathing? Well, it seems like I haven't interfered with Uncle's romantic life. Yoon Seo felt relieved looking at Seong Jihan's disgusted expression. Welcome to the Bronze League, Gangnam area, the mission is defense. Seong Jihan, after returning home, logged into the game while wearing a suit. It's a zombie mission this time. The mission was to survive while blocking the zombies coming up the tower until only 5 teams remained. The achievement quest window still displayed the uncompleted chain quest from last time. Chain quest. Zombies source. 1. Eliminate 1000 zombies alone. Reward. Achievement points 3000. Upon completion, the quest continues to zombies source. 2. At that time, it was impossible, but now I can easily clear it. During the previous game, Seong Jihan had low levels in power, but now his abilities had greatly improved, and he had gained another unique stat boost. With this much strength, he could easily sweep away the zombies below the tower. He had also prepared items that were perfect for this map. Inventory. Seong Jihan opened his inventory and summoned the weapons within it. In his right hand, a large sword the size of a person appeared. Otherworldly artifact. Urk's Divine Executioner Sword, C rank. A sword used by Urk's High Priest to offer sacrifices at the altar of the gods. Excellent for cleaving through monsters' bodies. When his divine power reached 10. From now on, you can only absorb divine power from relics that are C rank or higher. Receiving this message, he purchased the item for testing purposes. I wonder if absorbing divine power from artifacts of the otherworld will also increase my force. A unique stat boost that combined divine power and mana. To see if absorbing divine power would increase his force, Seong Jihan boldly spent all his GP to purchase a C rank weapon. It's quite big. Despite being C rank, the price was not as high as he expected. Urk's Divine Executioner Sword was too large and heavy for humans to wield comfortably. A sword that many warrior classes had avoided for that reason. Swish. Swish. It's usable, however, when such a weapon came into Seong Jihan's hands, it spun as lightly as a wooden stick. The synergy between power and force made it even more powerful, enabling this. Now that I'm all prepared, I want to go down right away, but the defense map wouldn't start until all the team members were summoned. Seong Jihan turned on the BattleTube broadcast while waiting for the rest of the team to join. Oh, Seong Jihan has started the game. You went straight into playing after visiting the auction house? In a suit, no less. Kingsman, that's just how that guy is. He used to play games in his sweatpants. As soon as the broadcast began, viewers started pouring in. Perhaps it hadn't been long since the Sword King's auction had ended. It hadn't been that long since the broadcast had started, but more people were joining than expected. Since the game hadn't started, the chat window was open and active. Seong Ji-han looked around, gauging the atmosphere. A zombie map, huh? The power he revealed at the auction, will he use it here too? This is Scout Kim Jinwon who greeted you a little while ago. The psychic power you showed earlier was really impressive. I regret that I couldn't have a longer conversation with you earlier. Could you open your message box? The atmosphere isn't bad. There were a lot of chat messages that seemed to be from scouts. In his previous life, the chat window might have been filled with pro-Japanese comments during this time, but now the atmosphere was relatively pleasant. Mr. Seong, good luck. It's Take-chan, and I'm ready to send some more donations. Could you open your message box? An annoying brat. Stop pretending to be cute, UF*****. Korean people are harsh with the words. HMPH. Although Take's chat messages were annoying, since so many people were chatting, they quickly scrolled past. How did you tear the business card earlier? What kind of ability is that? Any guesses? No idea. Is it something like psychic power? Most viewers were curious about the ability Seong Ji-han had demonstrated. Even though it was just a performance of tearing a business card, it was an out-of-spec power within the BattleNet class. Not only regular viewers but also the scouts were paying close attention to Seong Ji-han. I guess it's time to make a bet. Seong Ji-han checked the channel's subscribers. Over 12,000. Perhaps due to the exclusive coverage of the auction, there were more than 4,000 additional subscribers compared to before. As a result, one achievement quest had been cleared. The channel's subscribers have exceeded 10,000. Cleared the regular achievement, recruit subscribers, 1. Reward. 1,000 achievement points. From now on, increasing subscribers won't be easy. Up until now, he had been at the center of events that attracted the world's attention, so his subscribers had rapidly increased as a secondary effect. Of course, Seong Ji-han's potential was exceptional, so he could easily increase subscribers by moving to a higher league, but instead of waiting idly for that, I should make the most of what I have here. Seong Ji-han decided to take advantage of the current situation where aggro was drawn to him. Hello, everyone, he greeted lightly while looking at the chat. Oh, Ji-han is reading the chat. I think it's because the game hasn't started yet. Hello. Hi, as I've been looking through the chat, it seems that many of you are curious about my abilities. Reveal your status. Reveal your status window. Seong sang, it's Take-chan again. If you share your status window, I might donate again. Why is that guy so great at writing Korean in such a disgusting way? I'll also donate 10,000 GP. Many people said they would donate GP if Seong Ji-han revealed his status window, but he just smiled and brushed it off. Instead, I won't be revealing my status window, I'm sorry. Why not? Just show it, 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 show it. Amidst the fiery enthusiasm, Seong Ji-han thought for a moment, then extended his index finger and spoke. Instead, I'll make a deal. I'll reveal it if I reach 200,000 subscribers. 200,000? Are you kidding? So, you're not going to do it? Just do it, come on, Seong sang, I'll donate 50,000 GP, just show me a little glimpse, carrot oh carrot. The sentiment took a sharp turn as the idea of 200,000 subscribers was introduced. Seong Ji-han pondered for a moment again, then broke into a satisfied expression, as if saying, this is good. Then I'll make another condition. If I cannot finish first, I'll reveal it. How about that? As viewers went into shock, Seong Ji-han stated confidently, I'll definitely reveal it in that case, agreed? The promise was that he would reveal his status window if he didn't get first place in any future game. The chat started flooding with laughter. Not just a winning streak, but first place in every game? Ha ha. Ha ha ha. Does he think finishing first is easy? He's bluffing to attract attention. It seems like he's become too arrogant after finishing first consecutively. Achieving first place in BattleNet was something that even the most exceptional players couldn't casually guarantee. While winning the game itself often relied more on skill than luck, as long as you ended up in the top 50%, luck was less of a factor. However, first place required both skill and luck to align. If he talks like that, he will end up meeting a troll and shedding bloody tears. True lol, this is a team game too, right? You might meet one right away. Flash. Flash. As Seong Ji-han's declaration was being widely discussed, players who would be his teammates in the defense map began to appear one by one. Hello. Nice to meet you all. I'm streamer Golden Light. Today, I'll be exploring the deep sea with all of you once again. The broadcast started a bit late today, right? I was checking out the auction house. Oh, Seong Ji-han Nim. From the warrior class, streamer Golden Light, whom he had encountered in survival, appeared. Tisk, Seong Ji-han. From the mage class, it was Kim Guuk, who had suffered in the defense map against Seong Ji-han. From the archer class, Thump, a foreign man with a long beard effortlessly juggling a soccer ball was revealed. Is this for real? After that, the chat exploded. Today's going to be legendary, ha ha ha. Gangnam League's top 3 problems are all gathered together. How dare you try to finish first again? You shall not finish first. This is Battle.net. Was Battle.net upholding justice by breaking through Seong Ji-han's arrogant declaration? The members summoned to be on Seong Ji-han's team were quite remarkable. The so-called top 3 from Gangnam's Bronze League. The renowned man, streamer Golden Light. The magic user with a fluctuating strength, Kim Guuk. And, the god of soccer, Diego Massid, the archer who shoots soccer balls instead of arrows. Diego Massid was an archer who was considered the worst team player. Despite being a long-range dealer, he never dealt any damage and only threw soccer balls, making him a legendary troller. His playing pattern was simple. He throws soccer balls from his inventory of 10 slots, and once he uses up all 10 soccer balls, he stands still until he gets defeated. In a different Bronze League, people might consider this a comedic act, or it might pass as entertainment. But in the most serious and intense Gangnam area, the situation is different. Teaming up with players like him in such a serious and competitive environment made the others want to tear their hair out. However, upon seeing Diego Massid's name in the chat, Seong Ji-han's eyes widened. Diego Massid, Argentina's top player. He was a powerful player who had upheld the ranking of Argentina's league all by himself. While he didn't make it to the final 10 countries and eventually fell in battle, still, his unique playstyle garnered him high fame even after his fall. But, he was a mage class. Remembering the videos of Massid he had seen before, Seong Ji-han smirked. His appearance was vastly different from the clean look in the videos. His face was untidy due to the long beard, and his body was lean and emaciated. As Seong Ji-han silently gazed at Massid, Massid lifted his head and said in broken Korean, "Don't mind me." After stumbling through some Korean words, Massid kicked the ball again. It must be at this point that he earns the title of a true troll. But, he doesn't seem interested in communication. There was no need to waste time on a partner who clearly had no intention of conversing. There was no need to pour time into someone who seemed unwilling to engage in a conversation. Seong Ji-han turned his head, deciding to gather information about him later. Seong Ji-han Nim. I can't believe we're meeting like this, nice to meet you. Streamer Golden Light approached Seong Ji-han in an excited state. Mage Kim Guuk stood there with an expression that remained as distrustful as ever. To think I'd end up matching with this guy again. He wanted to give him advice as his senior, but that arrogant Ji-han had thrown him off of the tower, and remembering that made him want to attack right away. One doesn't avoid feces because it's scary but because it's dirty. Guuk mentally claimed victory and decided to hold back. After all, if he picked up on him, he would die again. Everyone, today's broadcast is amazing. Not only are we playing a team game with the talk of the town, Seong Ji-han Nim, but also, oh my, to have all 3 of Gangnam's top players in one place. The top 3 of Gangnam. Who came up with that? I want to sue whoever coined that phrase. Haha, that's true. Oh, but Kim Guuk Nim, you're a mage, right? Kim Guuk gave streamer Golden Light a side glance. Streamer Golden Light was decked out in A-rank equipment. He was not someone to be taken lightly. Out of his mouth, polite language naturally flowed. Indeed. That's strange. I was sure Seong Ji-han Nim was a mage class, because he used fire earlier in the broadcast. That person, when he was summoned with me, he appeared as a support. Wow. Really? Seong Ji-han Nim, what in the world? Could you give a satisfying answer for the viewers? Streamer Golden Light looked at Seong Ji-han with sparkling eyes. Expecting an answer, his gaze was filled with anticipation. Seong Ji-han brushed it off nonchalantly. That might be difficult, After all, I made a bet on my channel. Come on, don't be like that, but more importantly. Seong Ji-han cut off streamer Golden Light's investigation and brought up the main topic. I'll be heading down to the bottom, so I'll leave the top to you guys. Huh? The viewers were stirred by Seong Ji-han's declaration to go down the tower alone. Ah! Is another person going to be added to the list of Gangnam's top 3 trolls? Haha, we can't lose to the trolls. We don't need teamwork here. Shish $% carrot and, looks like today we're checking the status window. It looks like we're going to see his status window today. Their reactions were understandable because, in the 10 Towers defense map, countless zombies crawled around at the bottom of the towers. It was truly hell. Going down alone. No matter how skilled Seong Ji-han might be outside the norm, this was akin to saying he would commit suicide. A bronze player can be revived in the defense map. After being revived, he will probably fight properly from above, saying something like, "It seems like it still isn't possible yet." Can you revive in bronze? I didn't know since I don't watch bronze. I guess he's doing it for entertainment purposes. But the excitement of the people subsided shortly. When it became known that bronze players had a total of 3 chances to respawn, everyone concluded that Ji-han's arrogance was meant to entertain people. No one thought that he was serious about going down to kill 1,000 zombies. Seong Ji-han, you're truly a professional broadcaster to think you would go down there alone. Golden Light also thought that Ji-han's sacrifice came from the attitude of a professional entertainer. Although he'd been killed by him previously, he has become one of his fans after seeing him fight. I'll be filming from above until you come back. Viewers of Seong Ji-han, if you want to see him fight from a different angle, please visit my channel. Golden Light blatantly advertised himself, assuming Ji-han would die. Alright. I'll leave the top to you, and as for the mage, are you going to play properly this time? Ji-han's cold eyes bored into Kim Gyu-hyuk. Gyu-hyuk choked up for a moment as he remembered what had happened before. Fuck. How dare someone who said he's going down lecture me on how to play properly? Supports should just give buffs. Why's he wielding a sword and causing a fuss? Despite such thoughts, Kim Gyu-hyuk weakly nodded his head outwardly. Yes, of course. Mage Kim Gyu-hyuk, adept at anger management. Since the incident when he was utterly defeated by Seong Ji-han, he had been very good at controlling his anger. On the other hand, Diego Mashid, who hadn't experienced playing with Seong Ji-han, had a quite normal attitude towards him. Support. Buff. Give. He demanded a buff from Seong Ji-han. To think he's asking me for a buff, it feels quite unfamiliar. He'd only received buffs. He'd never given them, but since the force has divine power in it. His force was at 14, so he could use buffs that he couldn't before due to the lack of divine power. Power up. The skills he'd obtained as support were heal, power up, and barrier, and Seong Ji-han used power up on all 3 players. Whoa. So you really were a support, to think you'd use power up, and on top of that, the performance is great. Good buff. Pang. Pang. Diego Macid's soccer ball flew high into the sky thanks to the buff. It could have been because, just like martial power, force was also a unique stat, but the effect of power up was too good for 14 points of divine power. Protect the crystal and survive the zombie attack. The battle will continue until 5 towers are left. As the game began, I'll be going. Whoosh Ji-han, who was standing at the top of the tower, jumped straight down. At the same time, Diego's mouth fell open when he saw how the support jumped off the tower. Is he crazy? Yes. He's crazy, Gyu-hyuk answered while nodding vigorously. Then he quickly ran toward the tower's edge to look down at where Ji-han had fallen. Just like what had happened to him, he wanted to watch the zombies surround and kill Ji-han, but the sight unfolding beneath the tower was crazy. It was crazy in an entirely different sense. The power that dominated space, force. Baron, the first to handle this power, had always complained. Force is too difficult to handle. Especially controlling space, it's almost ineffective against high-ranking players. When it came to top-ranked players representing each country, they were all formidable and easily resisted space control. Of course, the biggest problem was Baron's lack of control. Perhaps due to his exceptional gifts, Baron had consistently grown without much difficulty, overpowering opponents with his stats until he reached rank 1. Even if his spatial control wasn't effective, the power of ultra magic power, a fusion of divine power and magic, remained robust. Thus, he grew to become Earth's strongest damage dealer, flourishing like a flower in a greenhouse. If Earth hadn't been included in the Space League, he might have been content to remain at rank 1 while living within the greenhouse. But in battles against extraterrestrial beings, he was utterly powerless. However, when Earth started competing in the Interstellar League with beings from other planets, Baron's overpowering strength on Earth only translated to being remarkable in the Space League. His hidden weaknesses became apparent. To be precise, it was his lack of control and his vulnerability to attacks. Jihan, let's practice. Baron had called upon Seong Jihan countless times to practice and overcome these weaknesses, but he couldn't easily eliminate them. If Baron had managed to overcome these weaknesses, Earth might not have faced relegation. Nevertheless, my role as Baron's partner back then is proving helpful now. Seong Jihan was quickly falling from the tower. Below, zombies crowded together without any room to spare. At this rate, a collision with the zombies was inevitable. Fire. With a single word, Seong Jihan extended his hand and flames erupted. Whoosh! The heads of the zombies waiting below burst into flames. Basic magic of the mage class, fire. It could only conjure flames near the hand, and if the casting distance increased even a bit, the flames would weaken and extinguish quickly. No mage had ever used this magic for offensive purposes. But Seong Jihan's fire was different. The flames that erupted simultaneously even from a distance were not only stronger than if he had conjured them directly, but they also radiated a powerful white light due to the fusion of magic and divine power. FSSS's, furthermore, perhaps due to the power of sanctity, which was the opposite of the zombies' nature, the white flames were instantly reducing the zombies' bodies to ashes. Not bad. Tap. Seong Jihan lightly landed amidst the flames. As he stepped down, the white flame extinguished on its own, and he created a cleared space. It was the power of force that dominated the space. Grr. However, despite the flames before them, the zombies mindlessly charged forward. When one burned, two more followed. When two burned, 3 or 4 stepped on the fallen ones, approaching. Even though the flames containing divine power were deadly to the zombies. As the zombies lost their reason and engaged in tactics, the power of the white flames began to wane. Ooh! Amidst the weakening flames, the zombies' arms and faces poked out. Hands of zombies that seemed ready to overwhelm Seong Jihan any moment. But as they approached Seong Jihan, their movements slowed down simultaneously. Seeing this, Seong Jihan smiled faintly. So the absolute domain's range is around 1.4 meters. The absolute domain. It was an area where the power of force exerted a strong influence. Entities not authorized by Seong Jihan were all restricted in their movements within it. Though his force stat was only 14, the range of the absolute domain was limited to 1.4 meters. But that was enough for Seong Jihan. Shocked. As his sword traced a line, the heads of more than 10 zombies were cleanly cut. But that wasn't all. Zombies that were slightly touched by the sword line emitted white light from their bodies and turned into dust. Seeing this, Seong Jihan nodded subtly. As expected, combining it with Marial power is better. Using the power of force alone for fire was less destructive than combining martial power and force to emit a sword key from the sword. Swoosh! After he confirmed its destructive capabilities, Jihan's sword began dancing, and the chat window also started to dance with comments. What's this? What in the world is this? Seriously, what is this? This goes beyond common sense. If we empty our thoughts, it makes sense. In just a few seconds, dozens of zombies turned to dust and vanished. Everything happened in the blink of an eye. 120 kills. The score on the scoreboard was already showing 120 kills. This achievement was possible thanks to the densely packed zombies. Looking at other towers where the recorded kills were still around 10 or 12, Seong Jihan's overwhelming performance was remarkable. Even if he continued to face the incoming zombies from this spot, achieving the goal of 1,000 kills seemed quite possible. However, it won't work at this rate. Seong Jihan's goal was the linked quest. He didn't know what quest would come after clearing this quest. Therefore, Seong Jihan quickly moved to achieve the 1,000 kills. While staying in this position allowed him to fight without being surrounded, it wasn't a viable option for Seong Jihan in his current state with both impotence and force. Whoosh! Seong Jihan's body shot forward like a cannonball. Whoosh! Although the zombies targeted him from all sides, Just a few movements of the sword were enough to cut them all in half. No matter how effective the tactics might be, they were only feasible when there was a certain level of difference in strength. This situation was akin to an ant swarm attacking a lion. Wow, he reached 300 kills in an instant. Others are only at 30 or 40 kills, he's single-handedly crushing them down. To think he alone could reach more than 500 kills, is he even human? Viewers watching Seong Ji-han's unmatched performance were stunned by the kill score displayed. He's strong, but this is too much, right? In a defense map designed for team play, Seong Ji-han was sweeping away the zombies effortlessly on his own. Even the troublesome blood zombies from the defense map were appearing endlessly, but crazy. He's even taking down the blood zombies in a single hit. It was utterly frustrating to see dozens of blood zombies, who were about to swarm Seong Ji-han from the air, falling like flies. In that state, they all crashed to the ground. Though the range of the absolute domain was only 1.4 meters, the area where the power of force could exert dominance was wider, making this possible. Wow, what in the world is this? Even if it's a garbage game with terrible balance, this is going overboard, isn't it? He hasn't been hit even once. Is this real? It might be faster to gather subscribers if we want to see his status screen, lol. I'm willing to bet all my belongings that Ji-han's gift is SSS rank. Hey, you think that too? The viewers were all in a state of disbelief when Seong Ji-han's kill count passed 700. While other towers hadn't even achieved a combined total of 100 kills, Seong Ji-han had already recorded over 7 times that amount. This isn't telekinesis, a mage using divine power? That's impossible. On top of that, his potential as a warrior is top-notch. He's insane. The scouts who were watching Seong Ji-han were exhilarated and ecstatic. It was an unconventional power. Moreover, this was something that not even the previous Sword King Yun Sejin could perceive when he was still a bronze rank. If they could recruit Seong Ji-han, the rankings of Korean guilds could completely change. No matter what it takes, we must recruit Seong Ji-han. Among these scouts, only one person's gaze remained chillingly calm. You can't, if you continue doing this, it'll attract way too much attention. The building next to Sword Palace, the Korean branch office of a Japanese trading company. This office, usually tightly closed with iron doors, was actually used as the Korean branch of the Neo Self-Defense Force. The reason the Neo Self-Defense branch was established next to Sword Palace was simple: to recruit Sword King Yun Sejin. Thus, the office that had become useless by now was transformed into the personal space of the head recruiter, Takada Kazuo. A large desk with 8 neatly arranged monitors. Takada swiftly devoured the stack of hamburgers on it, watching Seong Ji-han's achievements with an annoyed expression. Seong sang. If you're already showing such prowess, you might receive offers from other countries, not just Korea. The sight of Seong Ji-han single-handedly sweeping away zombies. Even though he was just a bronze player, the scene showcased that his future value was different from that of ordinary players. Although he hadn't been active in the league for long and hadn't gained much attention, if such absurd scenes continued to be staged, it was clear that the surroundings would become noisy before he even got to silver. Before that happens, I need to secure Seong sang somehow. Takada furrowed his brow. If it was just about money, Neo Self-Defense side wouldn't have been left behind. However, Seong Ji-han wasn't the type that could be recruited with just money. To transfer him to Japan, special means were necessary. And for that to happen, the approval of the upper echelons is required. However, even with Takada's appeal, the conservative upper echelons of the Neo Self-Defense Force hadn't granted their approval. There needed to be solid grounds to convince them. That would be the status window. If the data from the status window, which undoubtedly had remarkable information due to Seong Ji-han's displayed martial arts, was added, it might be possible to persuade the upper echelons of the Neo Self-Defense Force. Gulp. Gulp. Takada drank cola through a straw and calmly began to formulate a plan. Yes, surely, Bronze's defense map was about protecting the crystal. In the center of the tower floats a crystal. Protecting it was the top priority of the defense map. And this also meant that it was possible for team members to destroy it. Tap tap tap. Takada let go of the food in his hand and quickly began typing on the keyboard. One of the 8 monitors focused on someone other than Seong Ji-han. Sword King FC 898 feet entered the channel of the magician Kim Gyuhyuk. Takada's alternate account. Kim Gyuhyuk. I can't stand seeing that Seong Jihan guy outshine you like this. Takada started his maneuvering. Asterisk. Huh. This guy's insane, so damn strong. Kim Gyu-hyuk watched Seong Jihan, who was annihilating enemies alone, and his mouth twitched. They were clearly in the same bronze league, but what on earth is this difference? Stupid game. The balance is crap, Kim Gyu-hyuk muttered while shifting his gaze. He didn't want to see the despicable human's impressive performance any longer. Kua, it's beautiful, so beautiful. He glanced at Streamer Golden Light, who had both hands clasped together as if in prayer, with an expression of disgust. Then, Kim Gyu-hyuk turned his back to the front of the tower and walked slowly towards the crystal. When will this end? Not too long ago, he merely disliked looking at Seong Jihan. He had no other thoughts. Sword King FC 898 has donated 100 GP. Kim Gyu-hyuk, please accept our Sword King's FC quest. Suddenly, messages of donations started appearing on his channel, which only had about 10 viewers and had been left open just as a formality. Sword King 898 FC has sent you a viewer quest. Break the crystal and prevent Seong Jihan from being in first place. Reward. GP 50,000. A quest with 50k GP as a reward appeared, and Kim Gyu-hyuk stopped moving. 50,000? 50,000 GP is equivalent to 50 million Korean won. He will get that much money just to break a single crystal? That wasn't all. Is this where you marked the coordinates, 898? Wow, as expected of 898, your dedication is amazing. We can't just let that Seong Jihan guy rampage like that. I'll also donate to this quest. On his channel, which was almost in complete darkness and had hardly any activity, Sword King's FC messages started flooding in. The GP for completing the quest began increasing little by little. 52,000, 53,000, when it reached 55,000, Kim Gyu-hyuk's eyes shook uncontrollably. These Sword King guys were crazy to begin with, but this is something else. Sword King FC 898 has donated 300 GP. Kim Gyu-hyuk, please act quickly. If another tower falls, Seong Jihan will automatically achieve first place. Encouraged by Sword King FC 898, Kim Gyu-hyuk grinned maliciously. It seems like he really hates Jihan. Even if I end up in last place, I won't lose any skills. Of course, I have to accept it, when I remember how I lost a skill because of him. That's right. I'll make up for the loss with this GP. 55,000 GP was a sufficient amount to distort past memories. Kim Gyu-hyuk's mind had gone wild, and he immediately took action. Sword King Love 124 has donated 100 GP. Before breaking the crystal, please curse Seong Jihan thoroughly. I can't stand that arrogant bastard anymore. Kim Gyu-hyuk looked at Seong Jihan, who was far away, and nodded his head. What can he do to me from over there? Kukakukik. When he was first summoned, Kim Gyu-hyuk felt anxious when he saw Seong Jihan. That feeling was nowhere to be found now. With excitement, Kim Gyu-hyuk approached the crystal, and when the crystal came within the range of his magic, he turned on the voice chat. Seong Jihan, you son of a bitch. Asterisk. What's this? Hearing sudden curses, Seong Jihan was more bewildered than angry. Troller Kim Gyu-hyuk. Just a while ago, he was behaving properly, and now he's doing this. He is creating trouble just when I'm about to achieve 1,000 kills. Seong Jihan has achieved 920 kills so far. He was about to see the next quest, an important moment. Why act like this now? As the game was nearing its end, was he trying to take revenge for the last time? For now, let's ignore him. He could easily achieve 80 kills, so there was no need to pay attention to such insults. As Seong Jihan was about to turn off the voice chat to focus on killing zombies, Kim Gyu-hyuk's curses rained down like a barrage. You think it's okay to scam your high school niece? Her father probably abandoned her because she was fooling around with you. Starting from this, Kim Gyu-hyuk began intertwining Yoon Se and Seong Jihan while showering them with curses. Whether he had already predicted that Seong Jihan was about to mute the chat or not. He went to Japan because of the shock of you two fooling around, right? You dirty bastards, haha. Kim Gyu-hyuk poured out curses almost as if he was rapping. As Seong Jihan turned off the voice chat, no more curses came out, but he suddenly found himself standing still. It was fine for others to curse him. After all, he was used to it, having heard countless insults even in his past life. He had long learned how to ignore criticism. However, bothering his niece was an entirely different story, especially the way Guuk was saying such dirty things about her and him. Memories of Yoon Sea's last moments, which he wanted to forget, resurfaced. The day when the Sword King slaughtered Korea's top players and reduced Korea to the lowest rank in the league. Yoon Se fell victim to the Sword King's treason. Her face was brutally torn apart by the Sword King FC, and her body was covered in wounds. Despite being one of the biggest victims of the Sword King's devastation of Korea, she was entirely blameless in the rational and logical sense. If a fanatic could think rationally, they wouldn't be a fanatic. She barely held on to her life. Her torn face couldn't be reversed even by modern medicine. To return to her original state, she needed care from high-level supporters. However, none of the supporters were willing to help the daughter of the Sword King. Even so, after a month of hospitalization and treatment, Yoon Se regained some mobility. She could stand and walk slowly. And her first action with her newly recovered body was suicide. With her still recovering body, Yoon Se jumped out of the window. There were many factors that contributed to her extreme choice. Seong Ji-han recalled the messages that Yoon Se had left on her smartphone after her suicide. They were insults left by the Sword King's FC. "We tore your face apart, so Seong Ji-han will abandon you too. He. What will you do now that you can't roll around with that filthy body anymore?" After Sword King's FC had terrorized Yoon Se, a barrage of text messages rained down on her while she was hospitalized. The one he recalled now was the mildest among them. Most of the contents had been so vile that he had erased them from his memory. That was what drove Se to the edge and triggered her to make such a decision. And if Yoon Se is watching this broadcast right now, she would have heard those words too. The linked quest isn't important right now. Seong Ji-han turned his back and looked at the tower. Even though the distance was quite far, Seong Ji-han's vision could capture every detail up there. And he witnessed a sight he hadn't anticipated. Kim Guuk, who had approached the crystal, had created a fireball. Why did he suddenly start cursing? He was throwing a tantrum before shattering the crystal. Whether it's simply due to past resentment or someone has spurred him on, I'm not sure. Whatever the reason might be, the conclusion was simple. I'll kill that guy. The distance was great, and the mage would easily be able to destroy the crystal. But just rushing forward wouldn't get him to the top. A simple charge wouldn't be enough given the limited time. To narrow this distance, what he needed was the nameless divine art. It was an SSS rank skill that he was unable to learn because his martial power hadn't reached 30 yet, but even if the skill weren't there, he'd used it for half of his life. If he used all of his strength, he could imitate it. Nameless divine art's footwork technique, lightning thunder step. Zzz, a brilliant white lightning surged from Seong Ji-han's feet. All of the zombies approaching him from behind were burned and disappeared. Lightning thunder step was a footwork technique that pierced the sky, however Ji-han's foot felt heavy. Was it because the nameless divine art wasn't in his skill list? He could raise the lightning but perhaps couldn't turn himself into lightning. No, Seong Ji-han suppressed the surging anger. If the nameless divine art hadn't been in his skill list to begin with, the lightning wouldn't have appeared at all. The skill was undoubtedly there. Zzz, and when he tried with all his might to lift the seemingly unmovable foot, with the lower dantian's energy, both the middle and upper dantian reacted together. Due to his heightened nerves, the subtle movements were barely caught. Seong Ji-han found a clue there. The nameless divine art, wasn't it a martial art that only used the lower dantian? Whether he had used it through skills until now or whether the lower dantian had been sufficient. Seong Ji-han summoned all his strength to embody his speculation physically. He gathered force within himself. Upper dantian, middle dantian, lower dantian. The power of the three dantian converged in an instant. And in a fleeting moment, he felt his body become lighter. This sensation was similar to using the skill before regression. At this moment, Seong Ji-han became convinced. It's possible. Seong Ji-han's body turned into light. From the ground where he stood, white currents of electricity surged high. And soon, flash, a bolt of lightning struck the tower. Sword King FC 898 has donated 100 GP. Kim Guuk, hurry, break it quickly. Seong Ji-han is coming. Kim Guuk, who had been cursing in voice chat, began to think that he should finish the mission as the donations from viewers increased. It doesn't matter if he approaches. What can he do from this distance? Honestly, Seong Ji-han beneath the tower wasn't a consideration, but... What are you doing? Streamer Golden Light, who had been focusing on Seong Ji-han for a while, approached with a threatening aura. He had made up his mind to clear the most important viewer mission. Explode. As Kim Gyu-hyuk's pre-summoned fireball was about to launch, suddenly. Boom. His fireball exploded in midair. What's going on? Thud. Thud. A soccer ball had exploded the fireballs, and the culprit was clear. Macid. This damn idiot. When Kim Gyu-hyuk saw Macid, he shouted at him, raising his middle finger. You. Cursed. A child. Pretending not to know Korean well, yet he understood perfectly. This guy, he knew Korean all along, didn't he? Although Kim Gyu-hyuk had the urge to show this foreign guy a thing or two. Damn. Fireball. To clear the mission that was now at stake for 55 million won, he memorized the fireball spell again. However, Kim Gyu-hyuk, a voice that shouldn't be heard here. It chilled his ear. Say Seong Ji-han. What? Why is he here? That guy who was far below the tower, how could he already? Let's start with you. Bang! As Seong Ji-han's hand wrapped around Kim Gyu-hyuk's head, his head burst like a balloon. Because it's in the game, it's like that, but if it were reality, it would have been a horrifying sight. Seong Ji-han looked at Masid and slightly lowered his head. Thank you for stopping him. Masid just shrugged his shoulders. Thud. Thud. Seong Ji-han walked to the place where Kim Gyu-hyuk would resurrect. This damn game. How could a bronze player get here so fast from over there? Kim Gyu-hyuk cursed as soon as he got resurrected. Despite his head bursting, he still had the same spirit. After all, dying here wouldn't result in a penalty of losing levels or skills disappearing. As if anyone's going to save me, and the mission seems to be ruined anyway, might as well curse freely and gather some support. Thinking that way, Kim Gyu-hyuk immediately opened his mouth. Hey, you ba, his mouth, which was about to curse without hesitation, was caught in an instant by Seong Ji-han's left hand. You aren't afraid because it's inside the game. Seong Ji-han said dully. Senses are mostly filtered out by the BattleNet connector. Even if you die, you'll just lose levels. Yeah, that's probably what you were thinking. Boobub. Buzz. Seong Ji-han's right hand tightly gripped Kim Gyu-hyuk's shoulder. Let me show you a world you don't know. Whoosh. Through the captured, limp body of Kim Gyu-hyuk, he felt an unfamiliar energy penetrating his entire body. It was similar to the sensation when a magician manipulates the magic power of the heart. But it was a completely different energy from Kim Gyu-hyuk's magic power. It was a very cold and sharp energy. The penetrating energy tore through Kim Gyu-hyuk's whole body, twisted his muscles, and contorted his bones. Among those who learned martial arts, it was a technique called disjoint, which only a few could use. Watching his own body twisting uncontrollably, Kim Gyu-hyuk involuntarily broke out in a cold sweat. It's a good thing I bought an expensive BattleNet connector. It was the moment when the Korean characteristic of wanting the best possible equipment, even if their tier was low, showcased. My body's hurting right now, but if it's this much. The top-tier BattleNet connector, which reduced pain by a whopping 95%, was indeed reliable. By the way, I need to get damage and die ASAP. Heal. Toward Kim Gyu-hyuk, who was waiting for death, Seong Ji-han used a healing spell. As the twisted interior of his body recovered, it was immediately twisted again due to disjoint. Damn, what a ruthless jerk. Was he not going to let him die? Seong Ji-han just continued to use healing magic with an expressionless face. Heal. Heal. Kim Gyu-hyuk was able to stay alive because of healing magic several times. Idiot. Does he think he'll lose that easily, huh? While enduring the pain somehow, Kim Gyu-hyuk, who was determined to stand firm to the end. At that moment, maintaining his pride, he hadn't even groaned before that, but the pain that suddenly surged like a thorn became unbearable. What? What happened? Why does it hurt so much? Kim Gyu-hyuk screamed as he writhed on the ground. It was a level of pain entirely different from what he had experienced so far. Every hair on his body stood on end, a sensation that made him wish he could just die. System check. Ding. Everything is normal. For a moment, he thought the BattleNet connector might have malfunctioned. But the connector was working perfectly fine. Heal. And Seong Ji-han mechanically cast healing magic, whether Kim Gyu-hyuk was writhing on the ground or not. Heal. Heal. The sound of recovery magic echoed multiple times. Amidst the agony, Kim Gyu-hyuk felt something ominous. He felt as if something more painful was awaiting him. More precisely, he thought there was no way Ji-han would let it end like that, and he was right. When healing had probably reached Kim Gyu-hyuk's body for the 10th time. Ughhh. Suddenly, Kim Gyu-hyuk let out an animalistic scream, then his body transformed into light and disappeared. Even though healing had been used, he still died and the cause of death was fainting due to unbearable pain. Seong Ji-han looked at the spot where Kim Gyu-hyuk had vanished and muttered blankly. Can't endure even this. Seong Ji-han waited quietly at the place where Kim Gyu-hyuk would resurrect for the 3rd time. And then, sorry, I'm really sorry, I was wrong, Kim Gyu-hyuk resurrected, his body trembling. Seong Ji-han, with an expressionless face, covered his mouth again. It's scary. Suddenly, the atmosphere turned into horror. I can't watch anymore. Viewers who had been watching Seong Ji-han's channel were bewildered. In fact, while the sight of Kim Gyu-hyuk's body twisting might appear repulsive to watch, most viewers found a certain satisfaction in his current state due to the curses he had been throwing around. But, seeing Gyu-hyuk roll on the floor while he frothed at the mouth made them feel something beyond discomfort. Kim Gyu-hyuk genuinely appeared as if he was feeling pain. But why is he having such convulsions? Yeah, the BattleNet connector reduces pain, right? Is he acting? It feels too real for that. Viewers might not have understood why Kim Gyu-hyuk was acting that way. However, BattleNet experts engaged in heated discussions, sensing that there might be something underlying. Isn't it a side effect of receiving healing? Side effects? Isn't that a phenomenon that happens accidentally while treating continuous damage, right? If you think about it that way, it really seems like a side effect, since Seong Ji-han's technique seems to cause continuous damage. Well, he's using that so elaborately. Side effects. When you use healing magic on someone who was poisoned, a sudden burst of pain sometimes happens. Though the cause was unknown, most players weren't aware of this phenomenon as it disappeared even if the upgraded version of Great Heal was used. Flash. Perhaps because disjoint was used with less force this time, Kim Gyu-hyuk, who had withstood the pain longer than before, finally succumbed to agony and died. I should weaken it a bit more. As Seong Ji-han waited again at the spot where Kim Gyu-hyuk would resurrect, viewers showed signs of impatience. Again? Seriously, he has no mercy. It's the first time I'm feeling sorry for a troll. I'm sorry. Please spare me. No, please just kill me in one sweep. As soon as Kim Gyu-hyuk resurrected, tears and snot streaming down, he clung to Seong Ji-han's ankle. His previous stubborn appearance was nowhere to be found. Seriously, why did he burst out like that? The education seems satisfying, but it's a bit too much. But isn't BattleNet originally rated R? Oh, that's true, isn't it? Someone always ends up being blown up in every game. If it were a streaming site operating on Earth, it might have been blocked a long time ago due to its explicit content. However, BattleNet was originally a combat game with blood and gore, so there was no such rating. I'll go easy this time. Please. Seong Ji-han listened to Kim Gyu-hyuk's plea and reached out again. He wanted to make a clear example of what happened when you talked too much out of him. But, CEO822 has donated 10,000 GP. Uncle, stop. I'm fine. You'll lose subscribers if you keep going on. Seong Ji-han's hand halted when he saw the sponsorship message. August 22nd. The ID that followed Yoon Sea's birthday. It probably wasn't a Yoon Se impersonation. But it's not enough. Seong Ji-han looked at the hunched-over Kim Gyu-hyuk. From the perspective of his past life, he should have shown an even greater example, but... Yeah, let's stop. It's still a peaceful time. The moral perspectives of the end-of-the-world time he lived through and the current time were quite different. This was enough for now, however, there was still one problem to solve. Whose quest did you get? Saw save me. No, just kill me, huh? Who told you to break that crystal? Was it your own decision? Under Seong Ji-han's cold gaze, Kim Gyu-hyuk hurriedly answered. Sword King FC asked me. There's a quest on my channel. It's worth 55,000 GP. Did Sword King FC really stake such a huge GP? Yes, yes. That one. Sword King FC 898. This guy. He asked me to curse you through his sponsorship. Kim Gyu-hyuk recited the list of sponsorships one by one. He seemed to be in awful pain. Really? Understood. Even if he was a fan of Sword King, would anyone spend 55 million won just to get back at him? That's suspicious. I should remember this. Soon enough, Seong Ji-han grabbed Kim Gyu-hyuk's collar. Be grateful to Seiya who saved you. I understand. Thank you, Seiya Nim. Thank you. Now, go. Whoosh! Seong Ji-han threw Kim Gyu-hyuk out of the tower, and he descended while shouting, "Hurrah!" Even in the face of imminent death, his face overflowed with delight. Thud. Mage class. Kim Gyu-hyuk has died. Kim Gyu-hyuk has been eliminated from this game. Seong Ji-han looked at the message with calm eyes. He had killed Mage Kim Gyu-hyuk 8 times since he regressed. Now that he would resume the level-up race he had paused for a few days, he wouldn't have to deal with nuisances like this anymore. Due to pointless interference, I couldn't complete the linked quest. Of course, if he went out to hunt zombies again, he could quickly achieve the goal of 1,000 kills. Tower number 7 has been eliminated for the 3rd time. Now that 3 towers of different players had been eliminated, it seemed urgent to clear the linked quest in time. Should he be satisfied with breaking through the nameless martial art using the flashing sky thunder steps? Just as Seong Ji-han was contemplating this, you've defeated 1,000 zombies on your own. Linked quest, Origin of Zombies, 1, has been cleared. Suddenly, an unexpected message window appeared before his eyes. He had returned from around 920 monsters at the tower, but suddenly, the quest was marked as completed. What's going on? Seong Ji-han looked down below the tower, specifically at the spot where he had used the flashing sky thunder steps. It must be because of that. Flashing sky thunder steps was the ultimate magic that allowed him to jump great distances at once by transforming his body into lightning just before taking off. The distinctive feature of this technique was the explosive current that surged just before his feet left the ground. However, a portion of that current still remained in the ground where he had passed through. Seeing this, Seong Ji-han furrowed his brow. It only happened because I still haven't mastered the technique. Originally, when he took off, the current that had spread into the earth should have gathered entirely around him, but since he had triggered the nameless divine arts through the 3 dantians rather than using it as a skill, the power that had spread into the ground hadn't gathered perfectly. I'll need time to practice. He'd completed the quest thanks to that, but it was nothing more than unexpected luck from a martial artist's perspective. Recognizing his own shortcomings, Seong Ji-han patiently awaited the next linked quest. You've been rewarded with 3,000 achievement points. You've unlocked the linked quest, The Origin of the Zombies, 2. Kurorur, the ground shook violently, causing the zombies that had been relentlessly charging to suddenly stop in their tracks. Grr, RRRR, the zombie voices that had been echoing across the battlefield abruptly cut off. A deep silence fell over the land beyond the tower, as well as the other towers, mirroring the situation. Viewers watching the broadcast were thrown into confusion. What's happening? I'm seeing something like this in a zombie map for the first time. Is it a bug? Is this on BattleNet? If this is real, isn't it a monumental event? Just then, Kugaguging. The ground split open, and a massive hand thrust upward. Each finger was so gigantic that they almost reached the height of the tower. The hand was made of black steel. From the center of the palm, a mouth formed, and a mournful melody began to resonate, one that could shake the entire battlefield. Ooh! Wah! What in the world is this? The players participating in the game, as well as the viewers watching, were chilled to the bone by the eerie sound. And then, the horde of zombies began to be sucked into the colossal hand. Crunch! Squelch! The hand crushed and kneaded the zombies. Even though the bones and flesh of the zombies were torn apart with a horrifying noise as they fell to the ground, the fragments of the fallen zombies reassembled into the black hand and gradually formed a massive figure. And before long, the black hand created something. No, that's Golden Light's voice trembled. A gigantic abomination made of a mix of the blood, flesh, and bones of various creatures. Why is a monster like a flesh golem, usually seen at gold level, here? The grotesque form, created by the haphazard assembly of zombie fragments, robbed onlookers of any sense of reality. And it wasn't just one. Crunch thud. Crunch thud. The black hand created a total of 7 sections of the flesh golem. Thud 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 thud. After emitting a sinister laughter, the hand disappeared into the ground once again. You've cleared the defense map, 10 towers, bonus quest has been unlocked. Despite there still being 7 towers left standing, a message appeared, indicating that all the towers had cleared their missions. Bonus quest? There was something like that on the bronze map? Halt the advance of the flesh golems created by the Black Hand, an apostle of destruction. You can narrow the power gap by utilizing the blessing of the crystal. Reward, experience and GP tripled upon mission completion. The reward for the bonus mission was straightforward. 3 times the original reward. Crystal gives its blessing? Then, is it worth trying? Since they would consider it a clear regardless, the bonus mission was worth a shot without any hesitation. As players prepared themselves for battle with determination, something different appeared on Seong Jihan's quest messages. Linked quest. Origin of the zombies. 2. Defeat the flesh golems without the aid of the crystal. Reward. Achievement points 10,000, crystal fragment. Defeat the flesh golems without the aid of the crystal? Seong Jihan couldn't help but chuckle at the mission, as if he couldn't believe it. Is this really a mission meant to be cleared? So there must be crystal fragments in the reward. Other than epic quests related to survival maps, additional rewards beyond achievement points were rare. Seong Jihan gazed at the approaching flesh golems from a distance. Thump, thump, thump. The 7 sections of flesh golems created by the Black Hand were rapidly approaching the 7 towers. With each step they took, fragments of what used to be human rained down disgustingly. Even seeing it again was repulsive. Meanwhile, Golden Light approached Seong Jihan, his tongue held in awe of the flesh golem's grandeur. Hey, that looks like it's not going to be easy. Seong Jihan, you should quickly get buffed. Despite Golden Light's words, Seong Jihan remained silent, focused on observing the flesh golems. His viewers began to speculate about his behavior. Seong Jihan seems hesitant, he might back out of this haha. If he doesn't get first place, won't he reveal his status window? What is he thinking? Realistically, how could a Bronze League player handle a Gold League sub-boss? We should just ignore this. He's already shaking. The viewers' thoughts were correct. Even with the crystal's buff, could they really suppress that gigantic monster? It would be tough. Seong Jihan, even though it's you, that might be difficult. There was a chance Jihan was getting ready to die. If he had any ambition as a streamer, he might have been thinking of how to die while leaving the best impression possible. As Golden Light was sorting through his thoughts, Seong Jihan spoke in a low voice. I don't need buff. Huh? Seong Jihan, briefly responding to Golden Light's words, invoked the power of the Samdanjan. Flesh Golem. Even players in the Gold League would find it difficult to defeat this powerful monster individually if their levels were insufficient. Being an undead summoned monster, it had the ability to continuously regenerate as long as the core in its body wasn't destroyed. Moreover, the fragments of corpses embedded in its body weren't pleasant, making each individual part of the creature equivalent to a sub-boss level monster. While Seong Jihan had transcended the bronze tier, facing the flesh golem was still a challenge. If I couldn't use the nameless divine arts again, it would have been impossible. But now, even if it wasn't perfect, he could use the martial arts. He could kill it. Crackling electricity spread from Seong Jihan's feet. Reacting to his intense aura, Golden Light, who had been standing nearby, quickly moved away. What's this? I will take care of this alone. Nameless divine arts footwork technique flashing sky thunder steps. As Seong Jihan lifted his foot, deep footprints were imprinted on the tower's top. Puff his body turned into light and disappeared. Wah what? Golden Light looked around in bewilderment, and his face turned to astonishment. Seong Jihan was suddenly hovering above the head of the approaching flesh golem. Even Golden Light, once a gold tier player, couldn't grasp it, Seong Jihan's instantaneous divine technique. On top of the flesh golem's head, Seong Jihan held his Shimado high. Even though I gained force and my class is mage and support, it's all just means to become stronger. All of it was merely a way to enhance his strength. Seong Jihan condensed the power of his 3 dantians into his sword. Zing, perhaps due to continuously using an incomplete martial art that he hadn't properly acquired, his entire body was racked with pain, but it's bearable. Enduring the pain, Seong Jihan unleashed his martial art. Nameless divine arts, the triad of martial mastery, Mount Tai suppression. Triad of martial mastery was a martial arts technique modeled after heaven, earth, and humanity. Despite its grand name, it was essentially no different from the basic principles of the nameless divine arts. Heaven cleaves vertically, earth cleaves horizontally, and man pierces. Truly the most fundamental of fundamentals, the third tier among the three tiers. Yet, it was the foundation of the nameless divine arts. The triad of martial mastery followed these principles, and the Mount Tai suppression that Seong Jihan executed was simple as a move. Despite its grandiose intention to crush Mount Tai, in reality, it was just a vertical cleaving motion. However, when taken to the extreme, the story changed. Swoosh! As he brought down his sword, the giant's strides towards the tower abruptly halted. Compared to the golem's size, this swing was nothing less than an ant's strike, but it was enough. The golem couldn't take a single step more, and soon, crash from the head to the lower body of the flesh golem, its entire form split in half. Countless pieces of flesh gathered, and the heart, the core of the flesh golem, also split into pieces. Afterwards, as Seong Jihan landed on the ground, rumble. The earth split apart. Not content with merely vanquishing the giant, he left a scar on the earth, a transcendent strike of the utmost power. This was the triad of martial mastery, Mount Tai suppression. Seong Jihan's expression wasn't exactly pleasant. The control over my power is still not as free as I'd like. He should have only cut the flesh golem, but the aftershock of his power reached even below it. It was an incomplete Mount Tai suppression, however, this was something others wouldn't know. Behind Seong Jihan, a chilly silence settled. Thump. Drip drip. Messiah dropped the ball he was playing with. Huh. Golden Light lost his composure. What did I just witness? Seong Jihan's execution of a single sword technique. It was a simple motion. Simply putting his body into gravity, bringing the sword down. Rather, what had come before, the technique of becoming a lightning bolt and ascending to the sky, was more impressive. However, the result of his strike made even that seem forgettable. When the light converged on Seong Jihan's sword and it struck down on the flesh golem, Golden Light felt as though he, too, had been torn apart. Badump. Badump. His heart raced as if going mad, and the sound of its beating seemed to reach his ears. Excitement and fear's footsteps. Did I experience that alone, or not? He barely turned his head to look at Messiah. Wearing bright sportswear, Messiah was drenched in sweat from head to toe. Golden Light was certain. Even the emotionless soccer troll's reaction was telling enough. That strike made anyone who was a living being feel fear. Streamer Golden Light stared at the flesh golem disassembling into a pile of corpses after losing its core. In a moment, he regained his senses and hastily turned his gaze to his chat window. Countless viewers flooded in to see Seong Jihan's performance. Perhaps due to being just as astounded, the chat momentarily went quiet, as if lagging. After a while, what did I just witness? A bronze player? Against a flesh golem? In a single strike? It's a bug. A bug player. Although the viewers' responses of disbelief flooded the chat, Golden Light merely shook his head softly. You have to witness in person to understand what happened right now. Seong Jihan's strike was on a different level from what could be seen on the screen. The sensation of feeling as if his body was also being torn apart. The feeling of his entire body stiffening, with only his heart beating fiercely. An experience he hadn't felt even during his time in the Gold League. This feeling, it's my first time. Fear, despair, anticipation, yearning. Numerous emotions mixed in his chest. As a warrior, he thought that, no matter how many lives he lived, he wouldn't be able to catch up with Jihan. You're the person who will become the greatest. Next, the emotion that seized Golden Light's heart was, I want to know more about you. I want to capture you on my screen. I want to take your picture. As a streamer, it was the expectation and desire to capture the person who would become the ultimate star. With a hazy gaze, streamer Golden Light looked at Seong Jihan. Woo Su Su, because the flesh golem was so huge, fragments of its body were still falling, but the spot where Seong Jihan stood with both feet was completely distinct from that eerie scene. It seemed as if he alone existed in a different world. Suddenly, a thought occurred to him. Is what I'm capturing now not the present of a player who will become a legend in the future? That was the kind of thought it was. You've cleared the bonus mission. Your experience points and GP reward has been tripled. Logging out in a moment. Although a message appeared saying the first place reward would be tripled, Golden Light was more disappointed that he wouldn't be able to capture Seong Ji-han anymore. Parting like this. As Golden Light looked at Seong Ji-han with a regretful gaze. Blink. Suddenly, Seong Ji-han's figure disappeared, only to reappear on top of the tower. More precisely, in front of Masid, who had been placing a soccer ball on his foot. Masid, thank you for today. Unlike the grandeur of when he split the flesh golem in half, the current Seong Ji-han, offering his greetings, resembled a courteous salesman. The cleanliness of his suit added to the atmosphere, thanks to the absolute domain of his force. It's all right, you already thanked me earlier. In response to Seong Ji-han's sincere gratitude, Masid could only reply with a somewhat embarrassed expression. The difference in his appearance when he swung his sword towards the flesh golem and his current demeanor was too vast. Especially after witnessing the strike just now, he'd broken into a nervous sweat, so he couldn't treat him as he had before. No, I can't end it with just words. The help I received from you was significant. If it weren't for you, Kim Gyu-hyuk would have escaped after insulting me and my niece. I couldn't let him insult the child. As Seong Ji-han expressed his thanks earnestly, Masid seemed to sense the easing of tension, perhaps recognizing the sincerity. So, I want to repay you, but it's fine. You already helped me complete the mission. But repaying with that and receiving a reward were different stories. It was enough with just a word of gratitude, he didn't need to receive anything more. As Seong Ji-han looked at Masid, who was refusing the repayment, he thought to himself. It's better to build a relationship with Masid. Diego Masid, the last hero of Argentina. Although he didn't look like much at the moment, his performance in the future would be astonishing. Before Argentina's downfall, he could compete with America's Baron and Japan's Sawai as a magician. In fact, from Seong Ji-han's perspective, Baron's inexperienced control made Masid seem more outstanding. In other words, Diego Masid had a high potential to become the world's greatest mage. Because of this, Seong Ji-han decided to awaken his abilities early. It's not a material repayment, it's something related to your abilities. What do you mean? Your gift is related to the soccer ball, right? At Seong Ji-han's words, Masid nodded slightly. He wasn't surprised that Seong Ji-han knew about his gift. He had a good reason to believe that. Before BattleNet appeared in 2010, Diego Masid was the world's best soccer player. Even after other pro sports collapsed due to BattleNet, his SSS rank gift, God of Soccer, adorned the news multiple times. Although 10 years had passed, and his past glory was gone, and he was considered one of the top 3 trolls in the Gangnam Bronze League. The mage class suits your gift best. Mage? Me? Masid looked at Seong Ji-han with disbelief in his eyes. What connection could there be between a soccer ball and a mage? But, if it were someone else saying this, he might brush it off as nonsense. But I saw his amazing performance earlier. Having witnessed Seong Ji-han's extraordinary performance, Masid felt a glimmer of hope in his confident words. SSS rank gift, God of Soccer. Due to the incredible level of this ability, many guilds had tried to research it, but after all those attempts ended in dismal failure, people lost interest in it. Not belonging to a guild and wandering for 10 years, Masid now only kicked balls in the games out of habit. He had lost all hope. Mage class. The eyes that had lost their spark began to show interest, little by little. Seeing this, Seong Ji-han smiled. If you're interested in what I said, I'll give you my contact information. All right. But you are streaming right now, so send it to me as a message. Sure. I'll send you my contact info, so please get in touch at your convenience. Regardless of repayment, I'll buy you a meal. I like beef. I like it too. Seong Ji-han and Masid exchanged smiles. There was a warm atmosphere between them. Watching from the side, the streamer Golden Light regretted not intervening when Masid made that super save earlier. Oh no, I should have blocked that fireball earlier. Even so, he couldn't just let things be like this. Say Seong Ji-han Nim, me too, please include me too. Swoosh. Upon hearing those words, Seong Ji-han looked at streamer Golden Light with a displeased expression. His gaze held the meaning of, you? Why? That'll be a bit difficult. It's a meal to repay Masid. Stream. I can give you a stream-related offer. I have a great idea. I'll pass on that. I want to become Jihan's reliable partner. Why yeah, I want to become your editor. I reject. Seong Jihan shook his head firmly, he really didn't like noisy people. Please, despite Seong Jihan's firm refusal, streamer Golden Light still wanted to become his editor, even if he had to grovel. Logging out. The game was about to end. He has a good instinct. I feel like Jihan's going to blow up. As a 20-year BattleNet expert, I can guarantee that Jihan will skyrocket. You crazy bastard, it's only been 10 years since BattleNet came out. What the hell are you talking about? How can a traitor who betrayed the Sword King get to the top? The Sword King's fans are once again talking nonsense. Who betrayed who? Lol. An intense debate was going on in Golden Light's chat room, however, due to Seong Jihan's amazing potential, the voices belonging to the Sword King fan club were almost buried. I need to become his editor before his rise. I want to be his editor. I want to film Seong Jihan. But despite his longing, BattleNet was ruthless. Flash. Oh, no. Yes. Golden Light's vision flickered, and his viewer chat window was the last thing he saw before being logged out. After logging out, Seong Jihan checked the long string of system messages. You've completed linked quest, Origin of Zombies, 2. You've received 10,000 achievement points as a reward. You've received a crystal fragment as a reward. The next linked quest, Trace of the Apostle, 1, will open in the Silver League. 10,000, not bad. He decided to think about the next linked quest available in the Silver League later and instead focused on the rewards. 10,000 achievement points. It was a significant reward given the difficulty. And the effect of the crystal's fragment, Seong Jihan checked the item description. Crystal's fragment grade. Be limited to 1 use, and gives the player a divine blessing. You can only use this item in the Bronze and Silver Leagues. It's a bit ambiguous. Divine Blessing was a buff bestowed by the peak support class, the Priestess class. It granted an incredibly powerful effect, increasing all attributes by over 50% and is considered as a must in the upper leagues. However, despite its powerful abilities, it's a one-time use. With the condition of being usable only in the Bronze and Silver Leagues, it was quite disappointing. In reality, the main reward was the 10,000 achievement points, and this item was just an extra. However, Seong Jihan placed it carefully in his inventory. He didn't know when he might need it. Next is the clear reward for the defense map. You've achieved first place in the defense game. As a reward for first place, experience points and GP gain increase by 50%. You've completed the bonus mission. You've received experience points and GP rewards 3 times the normal amount. You've leveled up to level 3. You've received 6,000 GP. Achieving first place increased the reward experience points by 50%, and with the added bonus mission reward, he gained 3 levels in an instant, reaching level 13. There were only 12 levels left before he could participate in the silver promotion match. It was an explosive growth rate that no other player had been able to achieve before. Good. It was at that moment when Seong Jihan was about to assess his abilities with a joyful heart. Creak. A sound of splitting came from the sword that was hanging on Seong Jihan's shoulder. At the same time, another system message popped up one after another. You completely understand the otherworldly religion. Your divine power has increased by 1 and was integrated into force. Grade of Otherworldly Relic, URK High Priest Sword, has been decreased to D. Otherworldly Relic, URK High Priest Sword, has fulfilled its purpose. Your divine power has increased by 1 and integrated into force. Grade of Otherworldly Relic, URK High Priest Sword, has been decreased to E. Are divine power and force not proportional 1-to-1? Feeling disappointed, Seong Jihan touched the sword. It had been quite useful, but now it has dropped to E grade. Since he wouldn't be able to use it to absorb divine power anymore, should he buy a new weapon? Just then, the Otherworldly Relic, URK High Priest Sword, cannot withstand the power left within and is being destroyed. Boom. The sword that had been holding on barely exploded instantly. The sword he'd used a lot of GP to buy cracked and exploded since it couldn't withstand the power of the triad of martial mastery and Mount Tai suppression. Oh no, but the problem didn't end there. The power that had exploded from the shattered sword was trying to spread out in all directions. He'd realized his martial arts technique wasn't perfect when he used flashing sky thunder steps, and he'd used all of his strength with Mount Tai suppression, making the power surge even more severe. It seems in-game events affect the real world. Jihan quickly absorbed the strength from the sword into his 3 dantians. If he left it alone, the situation could escalate to the point where it could blow up the house. Chirp. The power flowing into the 3 dantian was too explosive. Due to the uncontrolled power that hadn't been properly harnessed, Seong Jihan's clothes were torn in various places, revealing his flesh. However, the remaining energy from the sword was quickly absorbed back into Seong Jihan through his back. And then, your divine power has increased by 1 and was integrated into force. Your force has increased by 1. Martial power, linked to force, has increased by 1. Seong Jihan blinked in surprise at the unexpected messages. 3 divine power equals 1 force. What luck! Although his C-grade sword, bought with all his wealth, had been destroyed, Seong Jihan's heart was filled with joy due to the unexpected gains. He'd earned 2 unique stat points from a C-rank weapon. What a scam! Your force has surpassed 15. From now on, you can only absorb divine power from relics of a grade or higher. The next messages were quite disappointing. They wouldn't let him get free honey so easily. For now, A-grade items are too expensive for me, so I won't be able to purchase relics for a while. Thinking this, Seong Jihan invested all his remaining points he gained after leveling up into force. Level 13 Affiliation, Bronze League, Gangnam Area 1. Martial Power 18, Force 18. Thanks to the link of his 3 dantians, both his martial power and force had become 18. He only had 2 stats, but just looking at them was reassuring. And I have plenty of achievement points too. I should check the achievement store. As Seong Jihan calculated his pouring rewards and pondered, the door was abruptly opened. Yoon Seo exclaimed, "Uncle, uncle," as she entered. Wearing an apron, Yoon Seo's bright face turned puzzled as she blinked her eyes. "What are you doing? Your clothes are torn, and why is Dad's suit?" "My sword exploded." "Oh, I see." Yoon Seo nodded her head as she saw the traces of the exploded sword all over the room. It seemed like his weapon hadn't been able to handle the abuse anymore. "Tisk tisk. What crappy weapons were you using until now?" "Well, now that I am a millionaire, I will buy my uncle a weapon." "Did you already receive money from the Neo Self-Defense Force?" "Yeah, that's why I was able to donate to you." Upon hearing her words, Seong Jihan recalled the messages where Yoon Seo had been trying to dissuade him. "Uncle, stop. I'm fine. You'll lose subscribers if you keep going on." Along with that, Kim Gyu-hyuk's cursing came to his mind. Are you okay? Huh? What, you mean the GP I spent? No, I mean the curses you heard. Oh, come on, I'm fine. Uncle, you've educated me well, so, it's all good. Yoon Seo smiled. She had a face that seemed completely unfazed. But due to past memories, Seong Jihan couldn't be sure whether that smile was truly real or not. Anyway, let's go eat. I've prepared something, and I have something I want to talk to you about. Talk about what? I'll tell you while we eat. Sure, I'll be right there. Yeah, take your time. What could she want to talk about all of a sudden? As Yoon Seo left the room, Seong Jihan changed his clothes with a puzzled look. I'm going back to school. School? During the dinner, Yoon Seo brought up her decision to return to school. Didn't the teacher say you could take a week off? I'm the student council president. It's a school with no vacations, so I can't take a break. There are no vacations? Uncle, don't tell me you don't even know which school your niece goes to? Of course I know. It's the BattleNet Academy. The BattleNet Academy. A school established after the appearance of BattleNet on Earth in 2010, receiving comprehensive support at a national level. Especially the Apgujeong Academy located in Gangnam's Apgujeong-dong, despite being recently built, was very popular, attended by rich kids from prominent families. It's said that if you receive education from an academy, the probability of receiving a gift increases. After turning 18, everyone receives player qualifications, but not everyone receives a gift. The number of people receiving gifts is very small, around 1% of the entire population according to statistics. That's why receiving a gift or not can determine the potential to become a BattleNet pro in the future. In the current BattleNet world, receiving a gift is like winning the lottery within the lottery. However, receiving education from the BattleNet Academy increases the chances of winning that lottery, as was the government's official explanation. So, is there anything special about the education at the academy? Something special. We have physical training and theoretical classes on how to handle magic power. I see. It sounded like an education you could get anywhere. Why would attending that school raise your chances of getting a gift? Seeing Seong Jihan's puzzled expression, Yoon Se smiled and said, honestly, these classes are just extras. The most important thing is to receive blessings at the gift hall once a week. The gift hall? Yeah, it's a room packed with gift gems. They say if you receive blessings there, you can get good gifts. So, even those who don't attend classes regularly show up on that day. Hearing that, Seong Jihan recalled the situation from his previous life that he had buried deep in his heart. August 8, 2020, a much more desperate situation than now. Seong Jihan fell into panic due to the migration of the Sword King, indulging in alcohol and gambling. Meanwhile, Yoon Se, to her pitiful uncle, prepared meals and diligently went to school. Se, I want to eat meat today. Okay, uncle. I'll go buy some. She acted happy even when Seong Jihan, who was stuck in a corner of the house, lay on the sofa and made naive complaints. The lady who came to cook last time was good, should we hire someone again? That's, our current situation. The house is so big that cleaning is difficult, right? It's fine since I clean the areas we use. Even when he made innocent remarks, lamenting the absence of servants. Yoon Se responded with a bright smile, not showing any signs of irritation. Around this time, Se was being pointed at by the entire nation while she was taking care of her useless uncle. She was only able to endure it all because she had been looking forward to her gift. The gift she would receive on her birthday, August 22nd, was the last hope of the desperate Yoon Se. So, even after such a big incident occurred and even though the teacher said she could take a break, she chose to go to school voluntarily to consistently obtain blessings from the gift gem, hoping to obtain good gifts and change the situation at least a bit. That's right. She had to travel by foot since she didn't have a driver, and she often had eggs thrown at her as well. Back then, he hadn't done anything to fix the situation. He just watched TV while lying on the sofa. Se, wouldn't it be better to rest more at home? It's okay, uncle. I am good. Every time she returned from school with dirty clothes, Jihan suggested that she should rest, but she still went to school resolutely. Because that was Yoon Se's last hope. I already know what will happen. She would get a gift with a bad ranking. A F-rank gift was the worst ranking gift, and people often said it would be better to receive nothing at all. What remained in Pandora's box was despair disguised as hope. After that day, Yoon Se gradually deteriorated. I won't let it go that way this time. Seong Jihan looked at Yoon Se. Her expectations regarding her gift, even in the significantly changed circumstances, seemed to be the same. Because of that, he couldn't straightforwardly say, your gift is an F grade in the current situation. So, until her birthday, he needed to gradually lower Yoon Se's expectations about her gift. Will you be going to school from tomorrow? Yeah, it's Monday tomorrow. Got it. Then I'll give you a ride from now on. Uncle. It's okay. I'm not a kid. You are aware of the situation. Yoon Se scratched her cheek in a somewhat awkward manner. Uncle, you're already busy because of BattleNet. You don't really need to. You saw today's game, right? A single BattleNet game doesn't take long, so I have plenty of time to take you. Don't worry. Still, it's decided already. Let's eat now. Seong Jihan cut off Yoon Se's words as she continued to hesitate and picked up his chopsticks. What's with the sudden change in attitude? Yoon Se looked at Seong Jihan's appearance and pouted, but still, a faint smile appeared on her face, as if she was grateful. The next morning, Yoon Se, who woke up at 6 a.m., rubbed her eyes and headed to the kitchen, only to be surprised. Uncle? Why are you up so early? You should eat breakfast before going to school. You know how to cook. It's just toast. Yoon Se looked at the toast placed in front of her. The toast Seong Jihan made wasn't just a slice of bread with jam spread on it, but a hearty morning dish with eggs and bacon, a satisfying source of protein. It looks delicious. Yoon Se smiled brightly and picked up her fork with excitement. It was a different smile from the forced ones she usually made. It was warm and innocent. Seeing her like that, Seong Jihan felt regret. I should have done this earlier. He had been so focused on BattleNet that he had neglected the household situation. How difficult must it have been for her to handle household chores alone in this vast house? Once the situation improves, I should hire someone again. Uncle, I'm a bit touched. To think you'd cook for me. Didn't I tell you? I'm a master of women's hearts. If you hadn't said that, the touch would have lasted longer. Okay, shall we taste it? Yoon Se looked at Seong Ji-han with a fluttering heart and took a bite of the toast. Wow, it's really delicious. Bacon toast was a combination that couldn't be tasteless, but Seong Ji-han's version was much tastier than the regular bacon toast. Seeing Yoon Se's surprised eyes, he shrugged. I'm good at Western cuisine. At the time when he lost his family and sought refuge in the United States, Seong Ji-han's heart was filled with deep loneliness and regret. In order to somehow fill that empty space and forget, he learned various things besides BattleNet. One of the activities he deeply immersed himself in was cooking. Having received direct guidance from a famous chef in New York, Seong Ji-han's cooking skills were considerable, to the point where even Yoon Se, who grew up eating only good things, was impressed. You're not lying. It's really delicious, uncle. Are you good at all kinds of Western dishes? Of course. Tell me what you want, and I'll make it for you. Okay, then. How about making steak for my birthday? Yoon Se's 18th birthday. Thinking about the time when she had lost all hope and had been endlessly desperate, Seong Ji-han briefly hesitated, but then he smiled. Will a steak be enough? Oh, well, I'll show you what a proper full-course meal is. A full-course meal? Seriously? It's the day I receive my gift, so please make it delicious? She's still looking forward to her gift. Okay, you will be surprised. Seong Ji-han hid his inner thoughts and confidently replied. It was time to go to school. Seong Ji-han and Yoon Se got on the elevator. Basement 7th floor. The door is closing. There was a parking lot exclusively for the Sword King's use on the 7th floor basement, which was full of Seijin's supercars. Yoon Se looked at Seong Ji-han with an uneasy expression. Uncle, do you really know how to drive? You have a license, right? Of course I do. How bad do you think I am? There's no way I'd think that. It's just that, uncle, you've stayed inside the house for too long, so I asked just in case. Yoon Se's eyes still held disbelief. It was because she had never seen her uncle drive before. We could just take the bus then. Have you ridden the bus before? There's a first time for everything. Forget about it, but don't think of asking me to keep driving for you after you graduate. Seong Ji-han took light steps and walked ahead. One of the hobbies he developed in the United States was collecting cars, and he was secretly excited. I'll get to drive a supercar after a long time. The car key was likely already inserted. He just had to choose a car he liked and drive it. With that buoyant feeling, Seong Ji-han's face stiffened as he stepped out of the elevator. Sigh, those numerous supercars, there wasn't a single car left there. The article said that Dad's car collection got cleared out, but to think he'd get rid of all of them. Seiya, what about the car you used to commute in? Don't tell me he got rid of it too? The driver took care of that. Now that I think about it, I got a text saying that the rental contract was terminated. Having sold all the cars and fled to Japan, including all the cars, it was reaching a point where even his meticulousness was worthy of admiration. He was walking around the garage just in case when, Uncle, let's just take the bus, Yoon Se said in a bright voice. I always wanted to ride a bus too. Seeing through her transparent cheerfulness, Seong Ji-han furrowed his brow. He hadn't brought her along to show her this kind of situation. It's my fault. Then, a car parked in the far corner caught Ji-han's attention. Wait. There's a car there, really? Yeah, that one. Recognizing the car from a distance, Seong Ji-han's gaze deepened. The last remaining car was an old yellow domestic compact car. That's the car Nuna used to drive, from before BattleNet was even around. Before BattleNet was introduced, it was the car Yoon Se's sister used to drive when she was struggling to make ends meet. He hadn't expected to find it here, placed in the corner of a place filled with supercars. He didn't sell this one. No, even if he had tried to sell it, it wouldn't have fetched much, so he probably left it alone. Seong Ji-han walked toward the compact car. Are we taking that? Let's see if it starts first. Seong Ji-han started the car with the key inserted. Vroom vroom. Surprisingly, the engine started without any problem. Despite being quite old, the lack of vibration suggested that it had been well maintained until recently. Seong Ji-han rolled down the window and gestured. Let's go, Seiya. Uncle, how about just taking the bus? Why? Oh, is it not suitable? Being the BattleNet Academy in Apgujeong, a place where the privileged kids of wealthy families gathered, there was a concern that bringing a compact car might attract unwanted attention. That's not an issue, but I think you'll get into trouble if you take that to my school. Trouble? I'm fine. I was worried you might be embarrassed. There's no way I'd be embarrassed. That was Mom's car. Are you really okay? As long as it's not that, I'm really okay. Seong Ji-han and Yoon Se looked at each other and chuckled. Then, let's go. Sure. They reached the BattleNet Academy 20 minutes later. Hey, how dare you park that piece of junk here? As Yoon Se had expected, Seong Ji-han found himself in trouble, just as she thought he might. The journey to the BattleNet Academy wasn't smooth from the entrance. What brings you here? The security guard blocked their car on the main gate and looked at them with suspicious eyes. I'm a student here. You're Yoon Se. This car isn't registered in the database. Would you like to register it? Yes. Understood. You may proceed. When Yoon Se showed her student ID, the security guard registered the car's number and allowed them to enter, but... What is a crappy car like that doing in the academy? It's Yoon Se. She's the one who messed up big time, but who's next to her? That's her uncle. The guy who broke the dual sword statue. Behind the open car window, the guards whispered to each other. Uncle, you can go this way. Although these words must have reached Yoon Se's ears, she pretended not to hear. With a playful smile, she guided Seong Ji-han to the underground parking lot of the academy. The underground parking lot was as spacious as sword palaces. The spaces were wide enough for one car each, and some of the parked cars were high-end imported models. Although people often said that there were more foreign cars than domestic ones in Gangnam, there weren't any domestic cars around. It's all foreign cars. With the absence of domestic cars, the car moving around the parking lot stood out even more. There, let's park next to the elevator, on spot 17? Yeah, I usually park there. Skirt after parking the car, Seong Ji-han asked in a nonchalant tone, when does your class end? Around 3 p.m. Will you pick me up? That should be fine. I'll play a round of BattleNet here. Come on, just go home. It's uncomfortable, and what about lunch? After playing a game on BattleNet and pondering about the three dantians, time would quickly pass. Seong Ji-han waved his hand dismissively towards Yoon Se, who was looking at him worriedly. Don't worry about me. But still, if Seong Ji-han didn't wait here, considering Yoon Se's personality, she would probably take the bus back. In that case, the meaning of driving her here this morning would be lost. Call me when your class is over. Seriously. Since it seemed impossible to persuade him, Yoon Se got out of the car with an excited expression. As C was about to pass through the automatic door to take the elevator. Screech, a high-end sedan stopped in the parking spot next to Seong Ji-han's car, and a middle-aged man with a burly build emerged. Hey! How dare you park such a crappy car here? Yelling abruptly. The man's appearance was too flashy to be called a driver. Do you know where this is? Move your damn car this instant? Was he the trouble Yoon Se mentioned? I expected some mocking, but I didn't expect someone to actively pick a fight. Seong Ji-han didn't feel the need to retort to that comment. Instead, he covered the middle-aged man's mouth with his index finger. Come out quickly. Who the hell is in this car, MMPF? Instantly, the driver's mouth stiffened because of Seong Ji-han's force. Although BattleNet's abilities were somewhat weakened in the real world, the power of his force was enough to shut a person's mouth. MMPF, MMPH, the middle-aged man strained to open his mouth, but his jaw seemed to be glued shut, making it impossible to open. It wasn't just his mouth that didn't move. My body won't move. As if trapped in concrete, he couldn't move from his upright posture. Meanwhile, Seong Ji-han calmly waved his hand to Yoon Se. Go, Se. Uncle, don't wait here. Go home. Now that I think about it, the student council work must have piled up. I don't know when it'll end. And on top of that, you're causing such a scene. Yoon Se looked at the middle-aged man briefly, and though she said so. Don't worry, this is nothing. I'll handle it, so contact me when it's over. Seong Ji-han seemed completely uninterested in leaving. As Yoon Se sighed and looked at him, at that moment. Clank, the back door of the sedan opened, and someone got out. What's going on? A female student appeared, her arms crossed. Although she had a tall and slender figure and a cold demeanor, she quickly approached with a smile when she saw Yoon Seiya. "Oh my. Seiya, are you finally going to come to school from now on?" "Yeah. It's been a while, Hisa." Yoon Seiya waved at her with a smile. Kim Hisa. She'd become friends with Kim Hisa shortly after she entered the academy. They were close enough to have participated in the student council elections together, and she was the acting vice president. "You changed your car?" "Yeah. I decided to get the previous one serviced, but, Hisa, what about you?" Kim Hisa glanced at the compact car Seong Jihan had driven, then looked concerned. "What happened to all of your other cars? Why are you using such a thing?" "Oh, my dad sold all the cars." Really?" Yoon Seiya casually mentioned, causing Kim Hisa to look somewhat disappointed. "Commuting in a car like that, it's bound to attract a lot of attention. How about I give you a ride home? I'll drop you off at Sword Palace." "Well, that's a bit troubling, that's what friends are for." Kim Hisa smiled brightly, and Yoon Seiya looked at Seong Jihan. "Uncle, what should I do?" In this situation, where a friend was offering a ride on her way home, there seemed to be no need to decline. All of Seiya's friends cut contact with her after the Sword King left for Japan. Those friends who wanted to befriend her because of the Sword King gradually drifted away when he left for Japan. The high school girls who used to visit the penthouse often no longer came around. Even Yoon Seiya, who used to talk about her friends a lot, stopped mentioning them all of a sudden. However, now, during this time, a friend was suddenly acting so close? "I'll wait and see." Thinking that, Seong Jihan responded to Yoon Seiya's question. "I think it'll be fine." "Well then, uncle, I'll take Hisu's car today. I can't make you wait here, after all." "Alright. Ms. Hisa, right? I'll leave Seiya in your care." As Seong Jihan spoke to Kim Hisa, she smiled brightly and nodded. "Yes. Seiya's uncle, but, can you release my driver now?" Kim Hisa seemed to be aware of Seong Jihan's abilities, likely from watching his stream. Snap. As Seong Jihan snapped his fingers, the previously immobilized chauffeur slumped down. The relief from his released body was temporary. "Is it still a crappy car?" "Oh, no, not at all." The grumpy driver trembled and quickly stepped back. He didn't want to experience what happened a little while ago ever again. Leaving Seiya behind, he left the parking lot. "I should start BattleNet as soon as I get home." Seong Jihan's current goal was to participate in the August promotion battle scheduled for August 25th. If he kept finishing first, he believed he should be able to reach level 25 before that day. He also had to schedule a meeting with Moseed and research the survival map's epic quest, so he had a lot to do. Vroom. The academy's entrance gate opened, and Jihan's compact car drove out past the mocking security guards. It's quite impressive to bring a car like that to the BattleNet Academy. Instagram worthy, isn't it? Click. A security guard lifted his phone and took a picture of him to post on social media. It was an unthinking act, but how could the Sword King's family fall so much to think they'd commute with a car like this? Even if she fell, she's still worth about 50 million United States dollars. This isn't the level of concern the security guard should have. Still, taking such a car to a BattleNet Academy, aren't they embarrassed? Lol. In no time, the photo garnered attention and soon turned into a news article. And this, Jihan has left the Sword Palace. It caught the attention of various guilds. Asterisk. A crappy car passed through a BattleNet Academy's gate. Who is the person inside? A small photo article that appeared early in the morning. At first, it seemed like it didn't catch much attention, but when it was revealed that the people inside were Seong Jihan and Yoon Seiya, it quickly became a hot topic. Given the ongoing Sword King controversy, it was a plausible event. A BattleNet Academy's tuition cost is about 300,000 United States dollars, yet they have enough class to ride a crappy car like that. Didn't the Neo Self-Defense Force pay yet? Why are they still using a car like that? Wasn't that a sponsored car? It's going viral. There's no way they'd sponsor someone with an old model. Unlike the general public who merely treated it as gossip, Lee Haeyeon, the 3rd Division head of the Divergent Guild, gleamed as she read the article. "Gaeong, we need to be at the academy parking lot tomorrow early morning." Understood. She'd been rejected after asking Jihan for his phone number just the day prior. However, rather than feeling discouraged, Lee Haeyeon was eager to continue her pursuit. There's no tree that doesn't fall after being hit 10 times, right? I need to recruit him somehow before others. Lee Haeyeon recalled Seong Ji-han's performance from the game yesterday. He hadn't just gone down from the tower and killed tons of monsters, he'd even defeated a semi-boss monster like a flesh golem, a monster even those in Gold League struggled with. He was truly amazing. His unbelievable feat led to a heated debate in the BattleNet community. He defeated it after receiving a buff, right? There was no scene of him receiving a buff though. Hey, how did he defeat that without a buff? Even a gold rank player would struggle to defeat it alone. He probably got a buff through telekinesis. Yeah, that makes sense. The debate about whether Seong Ji-han received a buff or not had escalated. In the end, it was concluded that Seong Ji-han defeated the flesh golem with crystal buffs through telekinesis. Even though the game was notorious for lacking balance, it was still absurd that a bronze rank had single-handedly defeated a flesh golem. Whether he received a buff or not, the fact that he defeated the flesh golem in one hit is what matters. Lee Haeyeon logged into Seong Ji-han's channel, lost in thought.